tested a new weapon with Su Chen. Hearing this, Lu Qingji nearly dropped his jaw. Just tested a weapon, and the mountainous area turned into ruins? What kind of weapon did they test? A nuclear weapon? Just as Wang Yong was about to explain the power of that weapon, they heard footsteps coming from behind. The two turned around to find Su Chen and Zhao Daru, accompanied by staff responsible for guiding them. Su Chen came to find Lu Qingji, but upon discovering he was not there, was brought over by the staff. Seeing Su Chen approach, Lu Qingji immediately spoke. Su Chen, you arrived just in time. Tell me what is going on. He pointed to the test flight area that had been reduced to ruins. What kind of weapon could turn such a large mountainous area into this? Su Chen looked a bit guilty. He pointed to a vehicle behind him. The staff moved the items from the vehicle in front of Lu Qingji. It's this thing. Lu Qingji looked at the particle laser cannon in front of him and was instantly startled. What the hell is this? Is it a cannon? Under the light, the laser cannon emitted a cold and mysterious metallic luster, its shape smooth and dynamic, each detail of the cannon showcasing exquisite craftsmanship, as if it had walked straight out of a sci-fi movie. Su Chen handed Lu Qingji the experimental data and logs. Upon opening it, Lu Qingji was even more perplexed. Particle laser cannon, a weapon developed for future space warfare, range of 100 kilometers, capable of moving mountains and drying up rivers. Lu Qingji swallowed hard and turned to look at the mountains that had become ruins behind him, feeling that the description of its power was still conservative. This was no longer moving mountains. It had directly evaporated the mountain. If it weren't for Su Chen revealing the laser cannon, he would really think that Su Chen was testing nuclear weapons here. The log detailed that the particle laser cannon had bombarded the test flight area for less than 3 minutes, turning it into this state. The energy supplied to the particle laser cannon could support continuous fire for an hour. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. The range of this thing is 100 kilometers. And it turns out Su Chen prepared this for space warfare. Has he already set his sights on space? One must know that this is the result of Su Chen's work over a month. Initially, he didn't take it seriously. After all, what impressive weapon could be developed in just a month? But at this moment, he realized that he had underestimated Su Chen too much. After all, this is a genius who managed to create a mecha in just 2 months. Comrade Su Chen, could you demonstrate it for me again? I want to see the power of this laser cannon with my own eyes. Lu Qingji couldn't wait to witness the power of the laser cannon. Wang Yong glanced at the test flight area and swallowed. Commander Lu, do we really need to bombard again? Isn't this area supposed to be developed into a tourist zone? Lu Qingji, bombard. It's already in this state anyway. If something happens, I'll take the responsibility. Thus, at Lu Qingji's strong insistence, the particle laser cannon demonstrated its might once more. This major general of Long Country felt the shock brought by technology for the second time, and while being astonished, he looked at Su Chen and couldn't help but murmur. It seems that the rank of colonel is still not worthy enough. It doesn't match this kid. Chapter 28, Junior. I refuse, it can't be like this. After demonstrating the particle laser cannon, everyone began preparing to head to the Eastern Theater. The Eastern Theater boasts the most advanced military facilities, the most elite Air Force units, and the richest combat experience. Conducting practical tests here would maximally showcase the combat capabilities of the first-generation mecha. Everything was ready, just waiting for the first-generation mecha to be transported over. However, due to security and confidentiality issues, the transportation of the first-generation mecha would take 3 days. During this time, various military districts would coordinate closely, ensuring that nothing happened to the first-generation mecha within their areas. On the way, they would pass by Luo City, Su Chen's hometown. Having not returned home for an entire summer, his family missed the original owner very much. Many times, when research reached critical moments, they called to ask when Su Chen would come back. Now, seizing the opportunity, Su Chen planned to stop by home. However, he was also worried that it might affect the testing. After all, time was tight these days. He couldn't hold up the entire military for his own reasons. Maybe it was better to wait until after the tests. Su Chen thought this way. However, Zhao Daru, who was always observant, noticed that Su Chen seemed to have something on his mind. Junior, what's the matter? Share with your senior sister, and I'll help you come up with ideas. Su Chen shrugged. He initially didn't want to say anything, but seeing Zhao Daru's intense gaze on him, it seemed she was determined to keep watching him if he didn't say something. There was no way out. He had to speak up. That's it. There's probably not enough time. After hearing this, Zhao Daru also understood Su Chen's dilemma. There's really no way around it. Junior, you can't have both loyalty and filial piety. No worries. Lu Qingji's voice suddenly rang out. Comrade Su Chen. Anyway, the mecha will take 3 days to be delivered, so you can handle your matters. I'll arrange for someone to pick you up at that time. It won't affect the test. Moreover, these 2 days happen to be a holiday, so we should leave you some personal time. These 2 days are the national holiday of Long Country, with the whole country on break. Zhao Daru was taken aback. She looked at Lu Qingji and then at Su Chen. She didn't expect that the higher-ups would be so considerate of Su Chen. In such an important matter, they prioritized Su Chen's needs. How enviable. Su Chen thought for a moment. Since there are quick transportation options like planes, he could quickly reach the Eastern Theater. Time didn't seem as tight as he imagined. Just as he was making his decision, his phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the caller ID and sighed. Zhao Daru looked curiously. It was Su Chen's mother. Your mom is urging you to come home again. Zhao Daru had seen Su Chen's mother call during an experiment before, almost disrupting it. She couldn't explain it to Su's mother then. Zhao Daru knew this was another prompt for Su Chen to return home. Su Chen answered the call. Andy. No, Mom. There was a 2-second silence on the other end. Then a woman's angry voice came through. You little brat. Why haven't you come home yet? You don't even call me Mom anymore, just Annie. Let me tell you, if you don't come back soon, you can forget about it. Su Chen felt a bit awkward. He wasn't used to calling the original owner's mother Mom. He occasionally forgot. Okay, Mom. I got it. I'll come back today. Upon hearing this, the all-powerful woman on the other end instantly changed her angry tone. You could hear her happiness through the phone. Really? Good, good, good. Will you be home tonight? Mom will prepare a feast for you. Just right. Aunt Lee has introduced a blind date for you. You should meet the person. Blind date. No way. Su Chen felt embarrassed. No wonder his mom was urging him to come back. She was planning to set him up on a blind date. The fear of being arranged for a blind date by his mother in his past life still lingered in Su Chen's mind like a shadow. He didn't expect that this world's mother would be the same. Can I skip the blind date? No. Su Chen's objection was dismissed by his mother. Before he could argue, the call was directly hung up. When Su Chen tried to call back, the phone was off. Su Chen was stunned, and his conversation with his mother was overheard by Zhao Daru and Lu Qingji. It wasn't that they were eavesdropping on purpose. It was just that Su's mother's voice was too loud. They couldn't avoid hearing it. Ha! Your mom is not only urging you to go back, but also to go on a blind date. Junior, you're really in for it. Seeing the schadenfreude on the senior's face, Su Chen felt quite unhappy. At that moment, he suddenly had a bright idea. He glanced at Lu Qingji, who looked momentarily stunned. Then he jokingly scolded, You rascal. Knowing that the two were about to discuss some private matters, he turned and left. Immediately after, Su Chen approached Zhao Dairo directly. Senior, you must have noticed that I am determined to dedicate myself entirely to scientific research for the country. I don't have time for romantic matters. It will definitely affect my research. How about you help me with something? Zhao Dairo instinctively took a step back, sensing something was off with Su Chen. What do you need help with? Su Chen grinned, revealing a bright smile. Pretend to be my girlfriend. Zhao Dairo replied, I refuse. Su Chen's mouth twitched. Do you have to refuse so decisively? Zhao Dairo lightly huffed, subconsciously playing with her bangs. I absolutely do not want to be your girlfriend. Su Chen emphasized, it's just pretending. Besides, I don't like you. We're just in a bodyguard-employer relationship. Upon hearing this, Zhao Dairo's expression suddenly froze. For some reason, her heart sank and she felt a bit annoyed. Pretending is not okay either. Su Chen helplessly shrugged. He felt as deflated as a punctured balloon. What should I do then? Do I really have to go on blind dates with strangers? What if they turn out to be my type? What about my research work? I still want to create more advanced weapons for the country. I haven't achieved my ultimate ambition yet. Zhao Dairo directly covered his mouth. Alright, stop. I agree to help, okay? Just shut up. Su Chen instantly felt joy. He couldn't help but feel pleased. As expected, she agreed the moment he mentioned the country. In fact, he was mistaken. Zhao Dairo's consent was entirely due to Su Chen's third statement. The moment those words were spoken, Zhao Dairo felt inexplicably tense and frustrated. She involuntarily agreed. Even she didn't know why. Anyway, I have to protect you the whole time. Even if you go home, I have to follow. It's just the right excuse to pretend to be your girlfriend. But it's just pretending. Just pretending. Zhao Dairo found a reason for herself. Su Chen was taken aback. You don't need to emphasize that. I won't do anything to you. And I don't like aggressive girls. Zhao Dairo pinched him hard on the waist. What are you saying? If you say that again, I'll beat you up. Su Chen cried out, help. This woman is trying to murder a genius. Chapter 29. Senior shows her might. Su family's parents. Easily, in control. Luocheng. This is a city gently carved by time. The ancient city walls bear the marks of the years, with moss spreading between the bricks, as if it were a mysterious code left by history. In a residential building. In the living room, Su Yuan, Su Chen's younger sister who is a freshman in Luocheng, has also returned home for the holidays. She is currently lying on the sofa, bored, scrolling through her phone. The father sat quietly beside him, looking at the newspaper. Su Yuan checked the clock several times. Dad, why is my brother still not back so late? Didn't he say he would be home by 6? It's already 10 past 6. Su's father was not worried at all. It's just 10 minutes late. Don't worry, he'll be back soon. Su Yuan pouted. It's one thing not to come back during summer vacation, but now he's busy during the National Day holiday. I don't even know what he's busy with. If Mom hadn't urged him to come back, he probably wouldn't have. Su's father chuckled lightly. Your brother is too embarrassed to come back. At his age, he hasn't even dated anyone. It really breaks a father's heart. You should step up and help him out. Su Yuan widened her eyes, thinking she must have heard wrong. Dad, are you really my father? Is this how you educate your daughter? Su's father grinned and glanced at her. Can't you see I'm testing you? If you had said something nice just now, your pocket money would be cut in half next month. Su Yuan. Su's father folded the newspaper and looked at another one. Although his expression was calm, his tone revealed a hint of urgency. You, as his sister, should help a bit. Introduce a few girls to your brother. Our requirements aren't high. Just someone who can use a smartphone. Su Yuan's lips moved slightly. Dad, I understand you're anxious, but do you really have to set the bar so low? My brother is a student at a prestigious defense university. Su's father sighed helplessly. I want him to find someone pretty and capable. Preferably a female student from the defense university. But he also needs to have that ability. All he does is study. I don't even know what good it does. He can't even help me reach the top rank in that game. Sigh, this ungrateful child. The more Su's father spoke, the angrier he became. He put down the newspaper, opened the stock market app on his phone, and his face turned green with anger. Just then, someone suddenly opened the door. As the door swung open, both of them instinctively looked over and saw Su Chun coming in with bags in hand. Su's father immediately stood up. You little rascal. You said you'd be back by 6, and you're 10 minutes late. Just like your dating skills. The neighbor Xiao Shuai has already changed 3 partners. And you Haven T even had 1. Su Yuan also put her hands on her hips and asserted. Exactly. Not even coming back for summer vacation. You don't even care about your sister. Both of them aimed their complaints at Su Chun. However, as they spoke, seeing Su Chun struggling with the bags, they felt a pang of sympathy and quickly rushed over to help. Just then, they noticed a girl behind Su Chun, also carrying large bags. She looked like a fairy stepping out of a painting. With delicate features that required no makeup, her bright eyes sparkled like gems. Every expression seemed captivating. Both of them were stunned. Su Yuan was even more exaggerated, her eyes widening in shock, as if her jaw might drop. It was the first time she had seen such a beautiful girl. She quickly searched her mind to see if she was a celebrity, but after thinking of many, none could compare to the natural beauty of the girl before her. Noticing their gaze, a blush like the glow of dawn appeared on Zhao Daru's face. She politely waved at the two, saying, Hello, uncle and sister. This is my first time here. I was thinking of buying something, which took a bit of time. I hope you won't blame Su Chun. Hearing this, Su Chun was taken aback. He hadn't planned to buy anything. After all, he was just going home and didn't need to bring anything. But Zhao Daru insisted on buying, and she bought quite a lot. So it took some time. However, what surprised him was that Zhao Daru would actually explain for him. Her tone was as if she had become a different person, very gentle. Was this still the fierce senior he knew before? Normally, she would be listening to her father and sister's reproach and secretly laughing. Su's father was the first to react, and Su Yuan also came back to her senses. They handed the gifts they had taken from Su Chun back to him, then went to take the things from Zhao Daru's hands. Sister, are you my brother's girlfriend? Sister, you are so beautiful. Sister, do you have a girlfriend? Sister, you smell so good. Sister, please sit over here, on the sofa. Little brat, who is this fairy? No, this girl to you? Is she your? Su's father pulled him aside to interrogate, his tone increasingly eager. My girlfriend. Su Chun nodded. Su's father suddenly clenched his fist. Yes. Ancestors bless us. I knew it. With my genes being so good, how could my son not find a partner? Since he has found one, it must be the best. Little brat. You've made it. After dinner, take your girlfriend out for a walk. Let us stroll around the community a few times. Let old Li envy me. Su Chun was very surprised. He didn't expect Zhao Daru to have such an impact. Just one meeting, and she had won over his father. Sister, are you really my brother's girlfriend? Do you have any dirt on him? If he bullies you in the future, I'll have my dad teach him a lesson. Su Yuan affectionately linked her arm with Zhao Daru's, smiling. This remark unexpectedly reached Su Chen's ears. Su Yuan, please be quiet. Su Chen shouted. He looked helplessly at Zhao Daru, only to see her secretly giving him an okay sign with her lips. Easy to handle. Noticing Su's father's gaze, the okay sign instantly turned into a heart gesture. Su Chen couldn't help but laugh. Just then, outside the door, a woman entered carrying a large bag of vegetables. As soon as she stepped in, she spotted her son. You little brat, you're finally back. Just in time. Come, let us go meet a girl. She is at home, and after meeting her, we'll eat. Once you miss this opportunity, there won't be another. Before Su Chen could say anything, Su's father suddenly spoke up. Meet what girl? Look how anxious you are. Our son is so outstanding. Does he lack girls? Su's mother was taken aback. Aren't you the one who has been urging me to find someone to introduce to our son? Don't waste any more time. Hurry up. She prepared to place the vegetables on the table, and just then, as she passed by the sofa, I saw Zhao Daru sitting on the sofa. I was instantly stunned. Clearly, I had never seen such a beautiful and graceful girl. And then, an even more shocking scene unfolded. Zhao Daru stood up from the sofa, adjusted her clothes, and her face turned slightly red as she shyly said, Hello, Auntie. I'm Su Chen's girlfriend. The surprised mother of Su jumped, and the vegetables in her hand fell to the ground. After a long while, she finally reacted. Joyfully, she approached Zhao Daru, hugging her while looking her up and down, her eyes sparkling. My dear, Auntie feels like we've known each other for a long time. At first glance, you seem to be one of us. Su Chen shrugged. All right, another one has been won over. Chapter 30. Preparations before the practical test. Eastern Theater Command. In the solemn and serious command center, the exercise commander Wei Jiantong was pacing before a large combat sand table with his hands behind his back, his brows tightly furrowed. Bright lights from the ceiling illuminated the simulated terrain on the sand table, making it clearly visible. His eyes revealed deep concern, as this exercise was truly significant. It was not just a simple military drill, but also related to the reputation of the Eastern Theater. The entire nation knew that their Eastern Theater was the pride of the Air Force. Like an eagle spreading its wings, it stood in the heart of the nation, ready to fly out at the first sign of an invading enemy and deliver a heavy blow. However, this time, they encountered a tough opponent. Wei Jiantong slightly raised his head, his gaze sweeping over the subordinates seated around the conference table. Each of these subordinates was a military elite. Not only were there experienced commanders, but also seasoned pilots who had seen numerous battles. They had previously faced various opponents with ease and confidence, but at this moment, serious expressions adorned their faces, fully aware that this practical test was going to be challenging. It is worth mentioning that Wang Feng, as an elite pilot, was also among them. You all have heard about the mecha developed by Comrade Su Chun, right? Wei Jiantong's deep voice broke the silence in the room. Everyone nodded. They all knew that the advanced nature of Su Chen's mecha had caused quite a stir in the military field. The mecha seemed like something out of a sci-fi movie. Yet it had materialized in reality. Its speed, maneuverability, protective capabilities, and endurance in battle had reached unprecedented heights. This had a tremendous impact on traditional combat concepts. A young staff officer spoke up. The emergence of this mecha has completely disrupted our original practical testing model. Its powerful mobility makes it difficult for us to track its movements, and its terrifying speed poses a significant threat to us. It seems that no matter how we engage with it, we cannot gain the upper hand. His words resonated with everyone. An experienced pilot with extensive air combat experience said, from the perspective of aerial combat, the flying performance of this mecha is outstanding. It is capable of performing some high-difficulty maneuvers that traditional aircraft find hard to accomplish, which provides a significant advantage in evading attacks and launching surprise strikes. We must find a way to limit its maneuverability. Another pilot added, its defensive capabilities should not be underestimated. I heard from a certain director that the materials used in the mecha developed by Su Chun have an almost eerie level of protective performance. Although the hardness of this material has not been tested in reality, according to him, ordinary firearms cannot harm it at all. Our conventional weapons have limited effect on it, which requires us to reconsider our weapon configurations and attack strategies. Everyone was discussing, with various ideas and suggestions colliding in the conference room. At this moment, a tactical expert sitting next to Wei Jiantong stood up. This middle-aged man, who always wore a faint smile, had previously provided strategies when the Eastern Theater faced dangerous situations during several practical exercises. Now he stood up again. The tactical expert adjusted his glasses and said, at this point, I think we can adopt a more for one strategy. Although this tactic seems a bit risky, we must make sacrifices when facing such advanced mecha. More for one. Wei Jiantong frowned, signaling him to continue. The tactical expert walked to the combat model and pointed at the simulated battlefield. We can concentrate the firepower of multiple aircraft to besiege Su Chen's mecha. Although we may lose a few aircraft, it would all be worth it if we can successfully destroy the mecha. Of course, while this is a practical exercise, it doesn't mean actual destruction. Both the missiles used by the aircraft and the weapons of the mecha will be assessed through a simulated weapon launch system. For example, when one side's aircraft locks onto and fires a simulated missile, if the other side's aircraft is determined to be within the effective kill range and fails to take successful defensive measures, it will be judged as hit by the simulation system. Once this idea was proposed, everyone fell silent again. The more for one tactic? If possible, they really did not want to adopt such a strategy. This tactic is only used in extremely disadvantaged situations, sacrificing other comrades to achieve the mission's objectives. It was evident that even their tactical expert had no better solution. The mecha developed by Su Chun seemed to have pushed them into a desperate situation. No one had anticipated that these elite pilots, equipped with world-class aircraft, had yet to achieve any feats on the battlefield, only to be easily grasped by a mecha developed by a young man in his 20s. They increasingly felt the terror of Su Chun. After a long silence, Wei Jiantong looked at the silent crowd and calmly spoke. Since you all have no objections, let's adopt the more for one tactic. At least it is the most likely strategy for success so far. However, implementing this strategy still poses some difficulties. We need to ensure that multiple aircraft can launch attacks on the mech simultaneously, which requires a high level of coordinated combat capability. Moreover, the mech is highly mobile. It won't just stand there for us to surround it, so finding a way to effectively trap it is also a challenge. The officer in charge of communications said, we can improve the communication system to enhance the speed and accuracy of information transfer between the aircraft, which will enable better coordinated operations. The officer responsible for intelligence added, we need to conduct a more in-depth study of the mech's movement patterns to identify its weaknesses and regularities. Perhaps its mobility could be restricted under certain specific conditions, or there may be blind spots in its defense system. Once the tactics were determined, professionals from various fields began to showcase their expertise. As the discussion deepened, the details of the multi-strategy gradually became clearer, and a tactical network targeting the initial generation of the mech was woven together. At that moment, Wei Jiantong noticed Wang Feng, who had personally engaged with the mech, sitting in a corner of the conference table, staring intently at the operational map without saying a word. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. In his impression, Wang Feng was usually very talkative. He would always express his thoughts freely during operational meetings. What was going on this time? Wang Feng, you fought against the mech created by Su Chun. Please share your insights on our multi-strategy. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's gaze turned toward Wang Feng, eagerly awaiting his suggestions. Wang Feng looked momentarily startled. He glanced around at everyone, hesitated to speak, and finally shook his head helplessly. I don't want to dampen your enthusiasm, but if I were to speak, any tactic in front of that mech would be futile, including our multi-strategy. As soon as he said this, the room fell silent once again, with a stillness that was palpable. Chapter 31. Why do you know so much? In the command room, all eyes were focused on Wang Feng. Regarding the multi-strategy, Wang Feng, who had encountered Su Chen's mech, was not optimistic. In fact, it was outright rejected by him. His expression was filled with deep helplessness, a mark left by the overwhelming pressure of the mech. Every night, he would ask himself before sleeping, why is there such a huge gap between people? even though we are all human. As an outstanding pilot of the Empire, he had once been the pride of his parents, a treasure to the military, and a genius in the eyes of his friends. But such pride vanished after witnessing Su Chen's mech. His friends said he had become much more humble lately, because he had seen a true genius. And now, these people were attempting to use tactics to counter Su Chen's brilliant creation. The key point was that their understanding was not comprehensive. In his view, every tactic had fatal flaws, including the multi-strategy. Of course, this couldn't be blamed entirely on them. The complete data on the mech had not been fully disclosed, as it was not only a test of the mech, but also a trial for these pilots. If you want to obtain more information, find a way to do it yourself. Of course, the other side is not fully aware of the information from the Air Force either. This is a situation of asymmetric information confrontation. In this context, Wang Feng, who has had experience with the first-generation mechas, has become the most important channel for them to understand the performance of the mechas. However, Wang Feng's response immediately chilled their hearts. Wei Jiantong, as the commander, showed an incredulous expression upon hearing Wang Feng's words. In his military thinking, while changing tactics is brutal, it can often yield certain results when facing a powerful enemy. This conventional tactic has had successful precedents in past war cases. But now Wang Feng directly denied this idea, which was difficult for him to accept. Wei Jiantong leaned slightly forward, his gaze fixed on Wang Feng, urgently asking for his opinion. It wasn't just him. Everyone regarded Wang Feng as the key to breaking the deadlock. However, Wang Feng let out a soft sigh, shaking his head helplessly. He spread his hands and said, "To be honest, I don't have any good tactics either." His voice was low and hoarse, each word revealing his inner helplessness. In his view, what these people were doing was akin to attempting to slay a god with mere mortal bodies. He added, "The enemy mecha's speed has reached a terrifying Mach 3. In the face of such speed, whether pursuing or fleeing is extremely difficult. That mecha is like a flash of lightning, disappearing from your sight in an instant or charging at you at incredible speed, leaving you no time to react. Mach 3. It should be noted that the speed of certain advanced aircraft only reaches Mach 2. Everyone's eyes widened, exchanging glances. They seemed to begin to understand Wang Feng. At that moment, someone asked, "What if we compete with the enemy mecha in terms of energy consumption? After all, we have enough aircraft. Can we leverage our numerical advantage to continuously harass and attack the mecha, forcing it to consume its energy?" They thought that by rotating their forces, they could maintain their combat effectiveness. Upon hearing this, everyone felt it was a decent angle. Competing on energy. With such speed, their energy consumption must be high, right? Once their energy runs out, wouldn't we achieve victory in the exercise? However, Wang Feng let out a bitter laugh and said, "You will be disappointed even more." He explained, "The enemy mecha's high-energy solid-state power can sustain our aircraft for 400,000 kilometers and can also use solar energy for charging. Trying to wear down the opponent with a war of attrition would likely mean we are the ones getting worn down." Wei Jiantong couldn't hold back anymore. "What kind of energy can sustain our aircraft for 400,000 kilometers? And it can also utilize solar energy for charging? Doesn't that mean it can fly freely?" Wang Feng nodded. "Otherwise, why do you think I said it's invincible? It truly is terrifying. Words can't even describe it." Wang Feng's words extinguished the flickering hope in an instant, and the conference room fell into silence once again. Faced with such a huge technological gap, everyone realized that increasing the number of aircraft would be futile. It was like a weak ant, no matter how many there were. It would be hard to compete with a powerful lion, especially considering that the developer of this mech was just a young person in their 20s. This was even more shocking. At that moment, Wei Jiantong couldn't help but wonder what the meaning of the Air Force's existence was. They lacked the abundant energy of their opponent, their speed was inferior, and their weaponry was also lacking. Wait, weaponry. A surge of electricity seemed to pass through Wei Jiantong's body as he suddenly turned to Wang Feng. "You've engaged with the mech. What do you know about its weapon system?" Everyone instinctively froze, then chuckled helplessly. "Commander, with such excellent performance, the weapon system must be advanced." "Yes, Commander. That essay given." Wei Jiantong shot them a glare. "Quiet down and let Wang Feng speak." Wang Feng lowered his head slightly, feeling a bit embarrassed as he said, "I don't know what the opponent's weapon system is either." As soon as he said this, expressions of surprise appeared on everyone's faces. A senior officer couldn't help but exclaim, "You little brat, if you don't even know the opponent's weapon system, why don't you have confidence in our tactics?" Exactly. The weapon system is key. If the opponent has no weapons, then it's just a slightly faster fly. Everyone thought this could be a new hope. If the mech didn't have a powerful weapon system, then they still had a chance. At that moment, a bitter smile reappeared on Wang Feng's face. He seemed to recall that night when he was dominated by the mech. He slowly said, "Even without a weapon system, it can still easily deal with us." His words made the smiles that had finally appeared on everyone's faces vanish instantly. Wang Feng took a deep breath and continued, "The opponent could land on our aircraft, using its superior stability system to stand on top of our planes, open our cockpit, kindly unbuckle our seatbelts, and finally toss us out like trash." His detailed description made the pilot's hair stand on end. They seemed to envision the terrifying scene of the mech standing on their aircraft, its cold mechanical arm opening the cockpit. "Why do you know this in such detail?" A pilot couldn't help but ask. Wang Feng felt embarrassed but still responded, "Because it treated me this way, just without throwing me out." Wang Feng felt so helpless. As an elite pilot, being treated like this was too humiliating. At that moment, he felt like a wronged child. The others didn't know how to comfort him. From the mech, they gleaned another piece of information. Although this thing might lack weaponry, it could still pose a threat, not to their aircraft, but to them as pilots. After a long while, everyone finally regained their composure. Wei Jiantong made the final summary. Regardless, trying out more tactics is the best strategy we have left. Moreover, while the opposing side may pose a threat to our pilots, there's no need to worry. Practical tests aren't actual combat. Even if they are ejected from the cockpit, it's just a simulated enemy being thrown out. Upon hearing Wei Jiantong's words, the pilots suddenly reacted. Right, this isn't real combat. Why should I be so nervous? In this way, it actually restricts the opposing mechs. Without a weapon system, how can they deal with us? Wei Jiantong thought the same. I suspect that mech may not even have a weapon system. Otherwise, they would have tested it long ago. We can't possibly be unaware of such news. Wang Feng had some reservations about this. The key is, he has no way to test it either. What would he use to test me? Wei Jiantong continued. Even if he really has a weapon system. A mech built in 2 months wouldn't have a good weapon system anyway. So we still have a chance. Wei Jiantong's eyes sparkled with renewed hope. Chapter 32. How to sleep 2 people on one bed. In Luoqing. After dinner, following Su's father's so-called health theory that walking after meals can extend life, Su Chun's family strolled around the neighborhood several times. Especially in crowded areas, they became their must-visit spots. Wherever there were people, they would go there to walk. Oh, old son playing chess? Yes, this is my son's girlfriend. How did you know she's a defense student and now works in the Air Force? Isn't that right? The Air Force is the most sought after. Alas, my son found a girlfriend and didn't even tell me, making me worry for nothing. You all continue playing chess, we'll keep walking. Su Chen looked at his boastful father, feeling quite helpless. He turned to glance at Zhao Daru, thinking that if this fake girlfriend was exposed one day, his father would certainly be furious. Zhao Daru sensed Su Chen's gaze. Her cheeks suddenly flushed, and her mouth slowly curved into a smile, seemingly recalling something joyful. They continued to stroll. Su's father, wanting to walk a few more rounds, was forcibly taken away by Su's mother and sister. Only then did the two have a bit of their own space. They continued walking. Zhao Daru suddenly spoke. Your uncle really enjoys walking. She looked at Su Chen, her eyes flashing with a hint of mischief and a touch of schadenfreude. As if to say, what will you do after I leave? Zhao Daru could easily see Su's father's little thoughts. Su Chen twitched his mouth but pretended to be calm. Indeed, but I used to walk a dozen laps. Now I've only walked a few. Zhao Daru was taken aback, looking at Su Chen with confusion. Really? I thought just then, his phone suddenly rang. Su Chen answered the call, his brows slowly furrowing. It didn't last long before he hung up. What's wrong? Zhao Daru noticed his unusual expression. Su Chen shrugged helplessly. There's a high school reunion the day after tomorrow. I might need to rush over. Actually, Su Chen doesn't really like attending gatherings like this. But this time the event was organized by the original host. Now that it's the National Day holiday, everyone basically has time. There's no way around it. Su Chen can only go, or else he would get scolded in the group chat. Zhao Daru seemed a bit surprised and said, You don't look like someone who would attend gatherings like this. Could it be that you have a crush? Su Chen recalled and suddenly laughed. You know what? I actually do. She's a campus beauty and quite good looking. The original host liked that campus beauty a lot during high school, even acting like a devoted admirer for a while. One reason for organizing the gathering was to see her again. Of course, it wasn't just Su Chen who organized it. There was also a classmate named Qian Jin who urged him to join in. It seemed Qian Jin also had a bit of a crush on the campus beauty. However, from Su Chen's current perspective, that campus beauty was nothing special, not even close to Zhao Daru. Just as Su Chen was about to elaborate, he noticed that Zhao Daru had already stomped 10 meters ahead without him realizing it. Seeing that Su Chen hadn't caught up, she turned around and scolded, Junior, what are you standing there for? Is that campus beauty really that charming? You can't even move? Su Chen immediately chased after her. It's clearly you who sped up for no reason. What if there were bad people around? How would you protect me? As soon as he said that, an elderly couple happened to pass by. The old man, with his hands behind his back, supported the old lady and remarked, Young man, how can you let a young girl protect you? As a man, you should be protecting the girls. Su Chen felt a dark line appear on his forehead. Just as he was about to explain, he realized the elderly couple had already walked away. Su Chen felt deflated like a punctured balloon. There's no way to argue back. Huh, did you hear that, Junior? Boys should protect girls. Even though Zhao Daru had walked several meters ahead, she remained vigilant. Seeing that Zhao Daru was no longer inexplicably angry, Su Chen decided not to say anything more. After catching up with Zhao Daru, they headed home. As soon as they entered, he saw his sister holding a comforter and heading to their room. Su Yuan, what are you doing? Su Chen stared in surprise. Su Yuan playfully stuck her tongue out. I'm bringing you another comforter. What if one isn't enough to sleep with? Zhao Daru seemed to think of something and blushed suddenly. Su Chen said, Let Xiao Rou sleep with you. Su Yuan replied, How can that be? My bed is so small, it can't fit 2 people. Although I really want to cuddle with Sister Xiao Rou while sleeping, Su Chen suggested, then you and Xiao Rou can sleep in my bed, and I'll sleep in yours. Su Yuan paused for a moment. Are you sure? The 3 of them went to Su Yuan's room. When Su Chen saw the tiny bed that was completely unsuitable for him, he felt incredibly awkward. His sister was petite, so the bed was perfect for her. But for Su Chen, who inherited his uncle's tall genes and stood nearly 1.9 meters tall, it seemed very small. Zhao Dara tugged at Su Chen's sleeve. Forget it. Let my sister sleep in her own room. With that, he turned around and returned to his room without looking back. His sister smiled at him mischievously. Keep it down at night, big brother. Otherwise, I might come knock on your door. Su Chen immediately gave her a light tap on the head to clear her mind of those impure thoughts. Returning to his room, he saw Zhao Daru had brought a mat and was already preparing to sleep on the floor. Su Chen walked over and squatted down to help arrange it. You sleep on the bed, I'll sleep on the floor. Zhao Daru chuckled softly. Let's not do that. How could I let you, the pillar of the nation, sleep on the floor? What would I tell the leaders if you got hurt? Su Chen smiled lightly. Oh, come on, I'm not that fragile. Besides, if my parents find out you're sleeping on the floor, I won't know how to explain it. Not going. If anyone's going, it's you. Zhao Daru was quite stubborn. This is my house. You have to listen to me. Su Chen retorted. If you say that, I'll tell uncle and auntie that you're bullying me. Zhao Daru huffed. There are cockroaches down there, Su Chen said ominously. Zhao Daru dismissed it with a laugh. Have you ever seen someone catch cockroaches with their bare hands? And mice? Have you ever had pepper-salted roasted mice, Junior? You're from the East, right? You must have eaten all sorts of things during field training. Seeing he couldn't persuade Zhao Daru, Su Chen simply gave up and laid down on the floor, declaring, This is where I'm sleeping. No one can take it from me. Zhao Daru's bright eyes widened in surprise. It was the first time she had seen someone so stubborn. I set up this bed, you should go sleep on it. Not going. Su Chen firmly refused. Zhao Daru, feeling equally stubborn, decided to lie down on the floor too, turning her back in frustration. Moments later, the scene was set. The bed was empty while two people lay on the floor. After a few seconds, both of them burst out laughing. We look like fools. Su Chen exclaimed. You're the fool, Zhao Daru said, a strange smile suddenly appearing on her face. Though she was grumbling, she felt inexplicably comfortable inside. It was her first time spending the night at someone else's house, especially at a boy's house whom she had known for less than 2 months. Yet she felt very at ease. And just like that, without realizing it, both of them fell asleep. The 3-day holiday passed in the blink of an eye. It was only then that Su Chen received a satellite phone call from Lu Qingji. Chapter 33. It's now popular for college students to work for us former underachievers. Comrade Su Chen, did you have a pleasant holiday? Thanks to you, it was quite good. Just didn't sleep very well at night. Oh. Su Chen rubbed his waist as Zhao Daru glared at him with a fierce look. Lu Qingji on the other end froze for a moment. Comrade Su Chen, are you okay? I'm fine. I just tripped over a stone. Lu Qingji then felt relieved and got down to business. The mech has been safely delivered to the destination. When do you have time? I'll come pick you up for the training ground. Su Chen checked the time. There's a classmate gathering coming up. I'll send you the address. Come pick me up after the gathering. Sure thing. After hanging up the phone, Su Chen hailed a taxi, taking Zhao Daru to the hotel. On the way, Zhao Daru kept a close eye on the road conditions, not missing any situation that might pose a danger to Su Chen. Her cautious and serious demeanor, combined with her handsome and exquisite features, as well as her curvaceous figure, made Su Chen's thoughts wander. It took him a long time to calm his mind, mainly because this woman unexpectedly had put on makeup today, and her makeup skills were top-notch. Her natural beauty was already outstanding, but now she seemed to surpass all others, as if she had truly stepped out of a painting. It was mesmerizing. Even the driver couldn't help but glance at her several times, almost causing an accident, which made Zhao Daru so angry that she wanted to take the wheel herself. At this moment, Su Chen finally realized what it meant to have a beautiful woman as a source of trouble. The hotel they arrived at was the Haydner Hotel, one of the top luxury hotels in the city. Upon entering the lavishly decorated hotel, a strong sense of opulence hit them. The lobby was spacious and bright, with dazzling crystal chandeliers emitting a soft and warm glow. The exquisite marble floors sparkled with a subtle yet luxurious sheen under the light. Most of the classmates attending the gathering had already arrived, except for a few. They looked around the hotel, their eyes filled with admiration. They never expected that the venue for this gathering would be the most famous Haydner Hotel in the city. The cost of staying here was extremely high, and as ordinary individuals, they might never have the chance to come here again in their lifetime. They might not even be able to step up the stairs at the hotel entrance. Welcome everyone to this gathering. Qianjin stood in the middle of the crowd, dressed in a sharp designer suit. He wore a watch worth a fortune, which sparkled under the light. A confident smile adorned his face, seemingly mixed with a hint of pride. Back in school, Qianjin was the worst student, consistently at the bottom of every exam. However, at this moment, he had done the best for himself, becoming the center of attention. People surrounded him, asking about his well-being and flattering him. Brother Qian, I heard you made a fortune in Southeast Asia. I could tell back when we were classmates that you had a knack for business. You were destined for greatness. Am I right? Brother Qian, are you married yet? I secretly admired you back in school. Was that a Maserati you drove? I heard that car cost a few million. Brother Qian, where did you make your fortune? Take care of your brothers. We're struggling here. This is my first time at this hotel. You've really treated us. Qianjin clearly enjoyed the feeling of being surrounded by people. His words were filled with a sense of boasting. He pointed to the luxurious decor of the high-end hotel and said, Do you know how expensive this hotel is? A meal here could cost as much as several months' salary for you ordinary folks. Just casually tipping the waiter is enough for you to be busy for several days. I specifically chose this place for our gathering today. How about that? It shows that I value all of you. I cherish our friendship. His voice was intentionally raised, as if announcing his wealth and loyalty to everyone, subtly crafting a good image for himself. Upon hearing his words, some displayed expressions of envy, while others whispered among themselves. At that moment, the crowd began to stir again. People parted to create a path. At the end of the road, a tall, beautiful woman, albeit with heavy makeup, walked gracefully toward them. She wore sunglasses and was decked out in shiny designer clothes from head to toe. Her long fingers adorned with rings made of gold, gemstones, or agate. Her wrists, neck, and earlobes were all embellished with gold and silver, showcasing her opulence. She looked like a walking model, flaunting expensive luxury items. Even her small handbag was a designer piece worth tens of thousands. Everyone's gaze was fixed on her. My goodness, isn't that our campus beauty Qianlan? I remember her family was just average, so what else with this outfit? Did she get involved with some wealthy person? I knew that being good-looking beats studying well. Although Qianlan was our school's beauty, she wasn't that great academically, and often hung out with delinquents outside of school. She made a name for herself. It seems she had a comfortable high school life, and is still living well after graduation. The crowd watched as she walked up to Qianjin. She took off her sunglasses and greeted everyone. They all rushed over, flattering Qianjin. Compliments were flying around. Qianlan's gaze swept over the crowd and suddenly paused. Isn't our top student missing? The top student naturally referred to Su Chun, who got into a prestigious university. Sister Qin, that guy seems quite busy lately. I heard he hasn't even come back for summer break. After all, he is a university student. Different from us who graduated high school, and didn't he continue? Qianjin suddenly chuckled. What is wrong with being a university student? I have plenty of university students working under me. It's trendy for university students to work for us former underachievers. Whenever Su Qin can't find a way out, he can also come work for me. I'll pay him 300 a day. That is 1,000 a month. Upon hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. Truly, Qian always had a generous and loyal side. A job paying 1,000 a month is hard to come by these days. I really envy Su Chun. Qianjin waved his hand. All right, let us head to the private room. When Su Chun arrives, I'll let him know the room number. Qianlan walked alongside Qianjin, while their classmates followed behind them toward the reserved private room. Just then, a waiter suddenly approached them, looking apologetic. Sorry, sir. The previous private room is no longer available. Chapter 34, Terrifying Security Specifications. Which big shot is coming? What is going on? Do you know me? Do you know which private room I booked? Qianjin called a waiter aside to ask about the situation. These 3 questions completely left the waiter bewildered. Wouldn't it be enough for a normal person to just ask what was going on? Yet, he insisted on asking the last 2 questions. They were unnecessary. Qianjin murmured to himself. It's my first time here, and I'm already treated as a key customer? Otherwise, how would the waiter know me? But none of that was important. This private room was something he had worked hard to secure through connections. If it couldn't be used, wouldn't that be embarrassing in front of his classmates? What was going on? Qianjin repeated his question. The waiter, with an apologetic expression, said, I'm sorry, sir. The room you booked is currently unavailable due to a line malfunction. We are arranging for repairs. Qianjin asked, Are there any other rooms available? The waiter hesitated. I'm sorry, sir, but there are no other rooms of the same specifications left. However, we can help you apply for a more luxurious VIP room at no extra charge. Upon hearing this, Qianjin's eyes widened. A VIP room? This was something he had never even dared to dream of. It's important to note that VIP rooms are not cheap. It's difficult to even secure a regular room, let alone a VIP room. These are reserved for the top elites of the city. Although he had made some money, it was nothing compared to the wealth of those elites. Great, great, great. Qianjin replied 3 times with enthusiasm. Please thank your manager for me. This is for you. Saying this, he took out several hundred yuan from his bag to give to the waiter. The waiter quickly waved his hands. Sir, please keep it. I can't accept this money. Qianjin was momentarily stunned. Isn't this a tip? Why can't he accept it? He didn't think much of it and insisted. If you won't take it, then I'll just keep it. All right, lead the way. With that, he returned to his group of old classmates, followed the waiter to the VIP elevator, and arrived at the VIP room on the top floor. Right next to it was a helipad, and sitting here for a meal, they could enjoy the stunning views of the city. But that wasn't the most shocking part. On their way to the VIP room, they actually saw a group of bodyguards in black suits. After all, it's a 5-star hotel, so having bodyguards is normal. But who has bodyguards armed with guns? Yes, these bodyguards were all carrying firearms, and it was clear that those guns were the real deal. Each bodyguard had a serious expression, looking like the elite of the elite. Anyone unfamiliar would think they were special forces veterans turned bodyguards. All the classmates were stunned. As expected of a 5-star hotel, even the bodyguards are armed. This is beyond impressive. Thanks to Qianjin, I've really broadened my horizons today. But isn't gun ownership banned in our country? You don't understand. Maybe a big shot is visiting the hotel today? However, it seems this floor only has 1 room. It feels like this room isn't just a VIP room, but possibly the top-tier room of the hotel. We underestimated Qianjin too much. Everyone exchanged thoughts, and their admiration for Qianjin grew stronger. Qianlan couldn't help but ask, what is going on here? Qianjin smiled calmly and explained to his classmates. The waiter just told me that there's a problem with our private room, but it's no big deal. I spent a bit of money to upgrade our room to a VIP suite. A VIP suite. Just the name sounds impressive. It's a room that only VIPs are qualified to enter. His classmates were almost stunned. Some couldn't help but ask, Qian, this VIP suite must be very expensive, right? Qianjin grinned. Not at all. It's only 66,666 for one night. 66,666. A wave of astonishment erupted among the classmates. They couldn't hold it in any longer. Wow. 66,666 for one night. No wonder it's a VIP suite. That's ridiculously expensive. 66,666. I wouldn't be able to save that much money even after 2 years of work. And it costs that much for just one night. Qian is impressive. Qian is magnificent. Qian is amazing. Listening to the admiration from his classmates, Qianjin's vanity was greatly satisfied. Even Qinlan beside him looked at him with flirtatious eyes, teasingly whispering, "When are you going to announce our relationship? I can't wait to be the most dazzling woman in the room." Qianjin replied softly, "Don't rush, darling. You're already the most dazzling one here without me saying anything. You're so annoying." Qianjin added, "When Suchen comes over, I want him to see his goddess in my arms. I can't wait to see his expression. You're really bad." Haha. On the other side, a taxi stopped in front of the hotel. Zhao Dairo got out of the car and followed Su Chun into the suite. Wherever she went, she would become the center of attention, but she walked a step behind Su Chun. When they entered the hotel lobby, they found that it had been completely cleared out. Dozens of men in black were guarding the area. The hotel manager had been called out. He had been informed in advance that a big shot was coming to the hotel. This was nothing new for Manager Zhao, as he had hosted many important figures before. But this time, the setup was a bit intimidating. The entire hotel, all the way to the top suite, was secured, with many plainclothes security personnel interspersed throughout. The surrounding hotels and high-end suites were all off-limits, and snipers and counter-sniper personnel were stationed. The hotel staff had been thoroughly vetted, and during that process, they even helped a kidnapped waitress find her family before her abduction. There were also various communication guarantees and emergency plans in place. This was the security standard for a top leader's attendance. However, the top leader wouldn't be coming to this hotel. This left Manager Zhao confused. He wondered who exactly the big shot visiting the hotel was. To his surprise, he finally met the so-called big shot. It was a young man, accompanied by a stunning young woman. When he learned that these two were the ones being protected, an astonishing thought crossed his mind. Could this be the son of the top leader? Otherwise, who else could receive such treatment? Manager Zhao was not qualified to talk to Su Chun when a security personnel approached them. The guard greeted Su Chun, saying, "Hello, sir." The term sir clearly reached Manager Zhao's ears, sending a chill down his spine. One must understand that sir is not a title that can be casually used. Even the son of a high-ranking official may not necessarily be one himself. Su Chun nodded at the guard. He was aware that these individuals were responsible for his safety. The security personnel then communicated with Zhao Daru. The sir's classmates have been moved to a more secure room. It's in the suite on the top floor. We have our personnel there, and from now on, it's in your hands. Zhao Daru nodded, replying, "Understood." They then entered the suite. Su Chun was already accustomed to this feeling of being protected. Although there was only Zhao Daru beside him, many eyes were secretly watching over his safety, whether in the community or the laboratory. Instead, Zhao Daru was getting nervous at this moment. Su Chun decided to change the topic to distract her. "By the way, the act of pretending to be my girlfriend ends today. After all, we're heading directly to the Eastern Theater Command later, so there's no need for disguise." Zhao Daru frowned sharply, snorting softly. "Is it that there's no need for disguise, or you just don't want the school beauty you secretly admire to know about our relationship?" Su Chun was taken aback. What does the school beauty that the original owner admired have to do with me? He was about to explain when they reached the rooftop. Chapter 35. Su Chun actually has such a remarkable girlfriend? Sorry, classmates. The teacher is late. The homeroom teacher arrived late. Upon seeing the teacher, everyone greeted him enthusiastically. As soon as he entered, his attention was immediately drawn to Qianjin. He walked through the enthusiastic crowd and reached Qianjin's side. "Qianjin, good lad. I knew you would be successful, and now you've really become a big boss." The homeroom teacher patted his shoulder and nodded at Qinlan beside him. "Students, this is what we call a talented couple." Everyone was momentarily stunned. Clearly, they were unaware of the relationship between Qianjin and Qinlan. But as the homeroom teacher, he saw right through it. At this point, Qianjin didn't wait for Su Chun any longer. He chuckled and pulled Qinlan into his embrace. Indeed, nothing could escape the discerning eyes of the homeroom teacher. "That's right, classmates. Qinlan and I have confirmed our relationship." As soon as this was said, the classmates were taken aback. They couldn't help but whisper among themselves. Qianjin and Qinlan actually got together. My goodness, she's the school beauty. Sure enough, the school beauty ended up in the big boss's pocket. We, the underdogs, might as well give up. We're fine, but what's crucial is Su Chun. Didn't he like our school beauty Qin the most? Now that the school beauty is taken, he will probably be heartbroken when he finds out. You say, what's the use of going to school? Without money, you can't keep a woman. In the end, you just graduate and still have to work for big bosses like him. Su Chun is really done for. Inside the private room, flattery fills the air. Although they sympathize with Su Chun, they all know that sympathy is useless. How could a student compete with someone who has already become a big boss? The class teacher can't help but exclaim, "Qianjin, you're really impressive now. Even the school beauty from back in the day is with you. Truly a winner in life." Others echo in agreement. The school beauty was a dream lover for many back then. You really have skills. Listening to these compliments, Qianjin feels immensely pleased, his sense of pride growing stronger. This is indeed a major fortune in my life. On such a joyful day, I'll treat everyone to better wine. Saying this, he proudly waved his hand, signaling the waiter to bring more expensive drinks. The private room bursts into cheers once again. But when the menu is brought out, Qianjin is instantly dumbfounded. A bottle of wine in this presidential suite costs millions. He quietly steps out of the room, forcibly tips the waiter, begging him to bring some drinks that cost a few thousand instead. The waiter is puzzled, thinking, where did your earlier arrogance go? Qinlan's best friend also comes over. After learning that she and Qianjin are in a relationship, she shows a look of anticipation. Su Chen probably doesn't know about this yet, right? Will he cry when he finds out? Upon hearing Su Chen's name, some people can't help but smirk. Qinlan seems a bit impatient. Don't mention that name to me. He's been pestering me endlessly. It's driving me crazy. So what if he's a student from a prestigious defense university? There are plenty of them, without power or influence. I'm just not interested. When he comes over, I'll make it clear to him that he can't keep bothering me. In fact, the original owner only pursued her during high school because, as a top student, Qinlan would respond every time, making him think there was a chance. After realizing it was impossible in college, he stopped pursuing her. He only occasionally sent messages, which hardly counts as pestering. But who can blame Qinlan for being beautiful? Looks are justice, and many believe what she says. At this moment, Qianjin walks over with a mischievous grin. Leave this to me. I already have my lines ready. When he comes in, I'll pat him on the shoulder, then wrap my arm around Xiaolan and say, bro, switch it up. I've got her now. You guys are no longer in the same world. What you can't give her, I can. Everyone bursts into laughter at Qianjin's vivid performance, fully displaying the image of a petty person reveling in their success, yet no one dares to call him out on it. Just then, a staff member pushes the door open. Su Chen, guided by him, walks into the private room. Seeing Su Chen approach, Qianjin's face lights up with joy, and he instinctively wraps his arm around Qinlan, ready to greet him. Some students showed expressions of sympathy, but more were just waiting to watch the drama unfold. Just then, before Qianjin could say anything, a girl appeared at the entrance, following Su Chen. Unlike Qinlan, who was heavily made up, this girl had only put in a little effort and became the most dazzling presence in the room. Her beauty was striking yet not overly flashy, exuding a sense of youthfulness from within. Every gesture and glance revealed a unique charm, reminiscent of the feelings one had in high school when seeing a beloved figure. If he was a swan, then in her presence, Qinlan seemed like a mere duck. Just in terms of temperament, she couldn't compare. The classmates were dumbfounded. Even the homeroom teacher, who was quite seasoned, couldn't help but feel a flutter, as if he had found the feeling of first love from his youth. Qianjin instinctively released Qinlan's hand and was about to ask who Zhao Deru was, only to see her directly link arms with Su Chen. With a gentle tone, she introduced herself. Hello everyone, I'm Su Chen's girlfriend. I came along today to share a meal. Hope you won't chase me away. Oh, that gentle voice was sweet, but not cloying, like being fed pure honey. How could such a lovely and gentle girl be chased away? They were just about to express their welcome when, in the next moment, they suddenly reacted with surprise. The one who reacted the most was still Qianjin. What? What did you just say? You said you were Su Chen's girlfriend? Su Chen actually has such an amazing girlfriend? No way. Chapter 36, Excitement. Senior sister slaps the school beauty. Su Chen's girlfriend is so beautiful. This made all the male students present envious to death. They had originally thought Su Chen was a lovesick fool, but little did they know he had already hidden a beauty in his home. With such a stunning girlfriend, Qinlan seemed like she was from different worlds. This left the classmates puzzled. They thought that during college, if someone was still pursuing you, they must be foolish. Why would they chase after you when they have such a stunning beauty? Qinlan couldn't even find the words to retort. At that moment, she felt a sense of shame. Once in the spotlight, now she felt like a heavily made-up duck in front of Zhao Deru. Staying silent was the best choice. But her best friend clearly didn't want that. Wow, our top student is really impressive. He actually found such a beautiful girlfriend. I thought you were still pursuing our Lan Lan. She teased, giving a knowing glance to her friend. Qinlan quickly caught on. Although she didn't want to say much, her friend had spoken up, giving her some confidence. Yeah, Su Chen, you were still messaging me before. I didn't expect you already had a girlfriend and still harassed me. Anyway, just to be clear, I've confirmed my relationship with Qianjin. Since you have a girlfriend now, please don't pursue me anymore. As soon as those words came out, the scene instantly became lively. The classmates looked at Su Chen in disbelief. Come on, with such a beautiful girl by your side, why aren't you satisfied? Why are you still bothering her? At this moment, Qianjin also wanted to take this opportunity to expose Su Chen's true colors as a playboy, thinking that maybe the pretty girl would get angry and break up with him, giving him a chance. As for Qinlan, he had completely forgotten something. Just as he was about to speak, Zhao Deru suddenly stepped forward, standing in front of Su Chen, and calmly said, Are you the campus beauty? Qinlan straightened her chest. I don't know, they just call me that. Zhao Deru chuckled lightly, glanced at Su Chen, and gave him a meaningful look. That gaze seemed to say, Your taste is really terrible. Su Chen couldn't help but curse in his heart. The original owner had such poor taste. How could he even be interested in someone like this? Zhao Deru turned her head back to look at Qinlan again. But with a teasing tone, You say my boyfriend is bothering you. But I know. Isn't it you who is bothering my boyfriend? Qinlan was stunned. You're slandering me. How could I bother him? Oh, Zhao Deru replied leisurely. Are you saying that Su Chen would choose to bother you instead of me, this beautiful girl? Do you think you deserve that? This statement was incredibly impactful. It completely left Qin Lan speechless. Because what Zhao Daru said was true, she really was beautiful. And no one could argue with that. Because of this, everyone began to side with her. If Su Chun were a normal person, he should know which side to choose. Although Qin Lan thought she was speaking the truth, she now didn't know how to refute it. Seeing his woman at a disadvantage, Qianjin hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Hey, it's just a class reunion. Let's not talk about this anymore. Everyone just enjoy the food and drinks and have a good time. Zhao Daru clearly knew that arguing with such a woman would lower her own status. So she took Su Chen's arm and sat down. Qin Lan was fuming, and Qianjin quietly comforted her. It's okay, Xiao Lan. I'll find a way to turn this around later. Su Chun felt the warmth from her arm. He glanced at Zhao Daru, feeling inexplicably soft-hearted. The senior had really stood up for him just now, showing both charisma and femininity. She was beautiful, and the key was that she was so clever and understanding. He just didn't understand why she was pretending to be his girlfriend. It was already clear in the elevator. Moreover, he could clearly sense her hostility towards the campus beauty. At that moment, the homeroom teacher came to chat with him. Su Chen, you are lucky to have found such a great girlfriend. Is she also a student from the National Defense University? Su Chen glanced at Zhao Daru. No, she has already graduated and is working in the Air Force. The Air Force is known for having the best benefits among the 3 military branches. Upon hearing this, everyone couldn't help but look at her with envy. More and more people gathered around. Seeing his spotlight being stolen, Qianjin frowned, feeling very dissatisfied. Clearly, it was his moment to show off. But it was being overshadowed by Su Chun. At this time, the food and drinks were served. Qianzhong, it's been a while since we all gathered. Let me raise a glass to you. Someone offered a toast to Qianjin. Qianjin knew the opportunity had come. So he waved his hands and pulled out a car key from his pocket, slamming it on the table. I drove here, so I want tea drink. You all enjoy. Qin Lan's friend saw the car key, and her eyes lit up. Xiao Lan, is that a Maserati key? I heard that car is a luxury vehicle. The cheapest one costs millions. Qin Lan raised her head, glanced at Su Chun, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. My boyfriend Qianjin's car is the latest Maserati. Over 3 million for one. Upon hearing this, everyone was taken aback. A car worth over 3 million. That could buy them several apartments in the city. They couldn't help but swallow hard. Qianjin chuckled but humbly said, it's nothing special. Just over 3 million. Don't worry, keep working hard. Maybe one day you can afford it. Like our top student Su Chun, he's a student from a prestigious university, with a promising future. He will definitely be able to afford it. Su Chun remained calm and didn't react much. This made Qianjin feel embarrassed. He poured himself a glass of wine. Muttering to himself, he thought, since everyone is here, it wouldn't be polite not to drink. I can just call a driver later. After filling his glass, Qianjin looked at Su Chun, top student. Let me toast you. Don't worry, if you get drunk later, I'll take you home. Su Chun waved his hand. I have important matters to attend to later, since so many classmates are toasting you. It would be better for you to return the favor first. I don't need you to take me home. Someone will come to pick us up later. Qianjin raised his glass, but was completely disregarded, thinking Su Chun was showing off. Anger suddenly welled up inside him. We finally gathered, and out of celebration. You should at least have a drink. Qianjin insisted. Su Chun still calmly refused. Sorry, I don't like alcohol. You all enjoy, I'll drink tea instead. Qianjin snorted. It seems our top student doesn't want to give us face. After drinking a glass, fueled by the alcohol, Qianjin's tone became increasingly unfriendly. Su Chun, don't think just because you're a top student that you're something great. You say you have things to do, then you say you don't like alcohol. How can a little drink hurt you? You're just a university student. Acting like you have some national affairs to attend to. You haven't even entered society yet. You see me as if I'm in a different world. Once you step into society, you'll realize how insignificant you are. You need to learn to curry favor with people like me. Or you want to have a good time in the future. I ask you, will you drink or not? Or should I personally come over to toast you? Qianjin poured another glass and walked step by step towards Su Chun. Zhao Daru wanted to stand up to intervene, but was pressed down by Su Chun. Su Chun, was not someone who would just hide behind women. Just as Qianjin was about to offer another toast. Suddenly, a buzzing sound came from outside the window. The noise grew louder and louder, drawing everyone's attention involuntarily. They all turned to look. Their pupils widened in shock. A helicopter. It was a military helicopter landing on the helipad. Could it be that a big shot has arrived? Chapter 37. Who is the big shot? Outside the private room, the sudden appearance of the military helicopter caused expressions of surprise and doubt among the attendees. Not only that, as the helicopter descended, the armed security personnel inside the room rushed out to greet it, forming a perimeter around the helicopter. Anyone with a keen eye could guess the significance of this event. A big shot must have arrived. Those security personnel in black were indeed from the military. At this moment, the homeroom teacher, who had just arrived last, suddenly said, I came a bit late today. Do you know what I saw? The entire first floor of this hotel was cleared out, and many soldiers were present. I initially thought something had happened. Qin Lan's friend chimed in. I saw that too. Do you think it has anything to do with the big shot in that helicopter? Of course it does. There wouldn't be such a grand display otherwise. Some students couldn't help but want to rush out of the private room to see which big shot had arrived. It would be great if they could get familiar with such an important person. With such a high-profile arrival, it surely wasn't just anyone. Qianjin, hearing their conversation, sneered, don't even think about getting acquainted. Even I don't have the qualifications to meet such a presence, let alone getting to know them. If you step out of this room, you might be apprehended as suspicious individuals. Go ahead and dream. The crowd nodded in agreement, feeling that Qianjin's words made a lot of sense and praised him for his insight. At that moment, someone suddenly stood up. Everyone turned to look and found it was Su Chun. No one paid much attention, thinking Su Chun was just heading to the restroom, until Zhao Daru also stood up. Everyone was taken aback. Were the two going to the restroom together? How amusing. Just as this thought crossed their minds, Su Chun calmly addressed everyone. Sorry. We have something to attend to, so we'll be leaving first. You all continue. Su Chun felt that he had already participated in the gathering, and since his people had arrived, there was no need to stay any longer. Moreover, he felt no attachment to his former classmates and found the situation rather boring. So he prepared to leave. Do you need me to give you a ride back in my Maserati? Taxis are so expensive. Came Qianjin's laughter from behind. Su Chun smiled calmly. That's not necessary. Qianjin sneered coldly. You really are clueless. If you had buttered me up a little, I might have arranged a well-paying job for you. Seeing Su Chun walk straight out, some students couldn't help but feel worried. Su Chun, be careful not to be mistaken for a bad person by those outside. It seemed that Su Chun didn't hear this and continued walking outside. Everyone thought they might be overthinking it. Even if there were important figures outside, their subordinates wouldn't just shoot at people, unless Su Chun was looking for trouble. After all, this is a big country known for its harmony and stability. Just as this thought crossed their minds, their eyes widened in shock. Oh my, look! Su Chun is actually heading towards that helicopter. Almost instantly, everyone crowded by the glass window. They saw with their own eyes that Su Chun didn't take the elevator down, but walked straight towards the helicopter. Qin Lan was taken aback. Her lips moving. What is Su Chun trying to do? Is he trying to get familiar with that important figure? Has he gone crazy trying to curry favor? Qin Lan's friend chimed in. Isn't he afraid of being seen as suspicious and getting arrested? Someone replied. Arrest is the least of his worries. Has Su Chun lost his mind? He.S. looking for trouble, and he.S. dragging that beautiful girl with him. Qianjin suddenly laughed. You guys say school is useless. But look at this, they've learned nothing. The homeroom teacher coughed lightly. Studying is still useful. It just needs to be applied in real life. Watching Su Chun's actions, he couldn't help but sigh, unable to understand what Su Chun was up to. Then they saw many security personnel moving towards Su Chun. Everyone realized they were preparing to stop him from getting any closer. In other words, they were about to take action. Qianjin and Qin Lan's eyes flickered, seemingly looking forward to the upcoming scene. At that moment, the helicopter door opened. A middle-aged man in military uniform, adorned with stars and displaying a serious expression, stepped down from the aircraft. Seeing this person's attire, everyone was once again taken aback. A general. This person was actually a general from the military. No wonder the security was so tight. It turned out a general had arrived. This was the first time these people had seen a general up close, and their eyes were exceptionally excited. Even Qianjin was no exception. He could hardly suppress the urge to curry favor. However, he knew there were some people you could flatter and some you couldn't. For instance, this general in front of him. If he dared to approach, he would definitely be ignored. Now Su Chun was in big trouble. I think he has truly lost it. This is a general from the military, and he still dares to approach him. Wait, did you forget that Su Chun is a defense student? So what if he is? Our country has many defense students. But how many generals are there? He is just a student. What connection does he have with a general? Then, in the next moment, the general walked straight towards Su Chun, and he extended his hand to him. Boom! This small gesture left everyone present utterly astonished. It was as if a thunderclap had sounded in their minds. Qianjin was stunned. Qin Lan and her friend were stunned. The homeroom teacher was stunned. All the students present were frozen in disbelief, until the wine glass slipped from Qianjin's hand and fell to the ground with a crash, shattering into pieces. Only then did everyone react. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. If it weren't for the scene unfolding clearly before them, they would have suspected they were dreaming. The general from the Empire, whom they regarded as a big shot, actually shook hands with Su Chun. Moreover, it was a proactive handshake. The security personnel who had gathered around were not there to stop Su Chun. Rather, they surrounded him in a protective manner. The protection they provided for the general was not as strong as that for Su Chun. At that moment, everyone had a big question mark in their minds. Who on earth is the real big shot? Qianjin watched as Su Chun boarded the helicopter, feeling inexplicably hot on his face. He looked at the Maserati car keys on the table and suddenly found them unappealing. Just a moment ago, he had asked Su Chun how he was getting back and even used the opportunity to mock him. Yet, here he was, taking a helicopter back. Although the Maserati was expensive, how could it compare to a military helicopter? The Maserati is costly, but the helicopter is prestigious. You can ride a Maserati if you have money, but you can't just hop on a military helicopter no matter how much money you have. Forget about riding it. Even touching it might get you shot as a suspicious person. Qin Lan's friend turned to her and whispered, Xiaolan, didn't you say you didn't like Su Chun? Why not introduce him to me? I've actually had a crush on him for a long time. Qin Lan shot her a glance and replied with a phrase Zhao Dai Ro had once thrown at her. Do you think you're worthy? You're not even as pretty as me. Do you have the confidence to compete with Su Chun's girlfriend? We're no longer in the same world as him. Chapter 38. What? You all call Su Chun commander? The gathering continued amidst the unexpected turn of events, but everyone's spirits were low. Qianjin and his friends naturally had nothing more to say, while the other snobbish classmates felt regret. They regretted having fawned over the wrong person, ignoring the real big shot, and instead fawning over Qianjin. In the end, the entire gathering was primarily discussing Su Chun. This left Qianjin extremely dissatisfied. Even after everyone had left, they were still talking about him. It was clearly his event. The spotlight had been completely stolen by Su Chun. Moreover, everyone had already left. I knew studying was important. If Su Chun weren't a defense student, would he have had the chance to connect with big shots? I'm going to make my useless son study hard. However, calculating the time, wasn't Su Chun only a junior or senior? How could he possibly have connections with the generals of our country? Upon hearing their discussions, Qianjin sneered. I say, maybe it was his teacher coming to pick him up for school. Everyone realized at that moment that Qianjin was envious. After all, how many students get picked up by a helicopter? And by a teacher no less. When Qianjin saw that no one was responding to him, even Xinlan, who had just confirmed their relationship, was staring at the chat interface with Su Chun, seemingly preparing to type something, writing and deleting repeatedly. This only deepened Qianjin's jealousy. He snorted coldly. After all, he was just a student, powerless and without influence. Just wait and see, after he graduates. He might even ask me to help him find a job. As soon as he said this, a group of well-dressed individuals entered the private room. The leader, wearing sunglasses, was followed by Manager Zhao from the hotel. He approached these classmates somewhat humbly, his gaze landing on the oldest class teacher. You are the teacher, right? I heard you want to settle the bill. The class teacher was startled. At that moment, Qianjin's voice rang out. Manager Zhao, I'll take care of the bill. Look at you. You could have just sent someone over. Why did you come personally? Upon learning of Manager Zhao's identity, everyone was taken aback. This was the manager of a 5-star hotel, a spokesperson for the hotel chain, one of the most powerful figures in the city. They felt they had no right to meet him. Yet, here was such a lofty figure, being somewhat humble. No need. I'm here to remind everyone that the bill has already been settled, Manager Zhao said with a smile. He glanced at the drinks on the table and shot a glare at the staff. How could you serve such cheap wine to our esteemed guests? The staff felt wronged. Manager Zhao quickly added, it's my oversight. Next time when the leader comes for a gathering, I will personally host you all. Manager Zhao's politeness made them feel a bit embarrassed. But at that moment, they suddenly noticed something amiss in Manager Zhao's earlier words. Leader? Who is the leader? Who is the leader? Oh no, don't scare us. Among them, the only one who could possibly be referred to as a leader was Su Chun, who had just been picked up by a military helicopter. This speculation sent shivers down their spines. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Su Chun was just in his early 20s, still a college student. How could he be a leader? Although they were not very familiar with the specific application of the title, they had all seen war movies and dramas. They all knew that when a military big shot appears, they are referred to as a leader. Generally, a small fry has no right to be called a leader. Qianjin's mouth twitched slightly. He forced a laugh, wiping the fine beads of sweat from his forehead. Manager Zhao, are you mistaken? There is no leader here. Manager Zhao was momentarily taken aback, then suddenly laughed. That's right, you students are doing a great job at keeping secrets. Having you as classmates is a blessing for the leader. If they had been speculating whether Manager Zhao was mistaken before, after his next sentence, they were completely convinced. He was definitely referring to Su Chun. After all, the only one among them who had a high-profile and terrifying connection was Su Chun, who had just left in a helicopter. Su Chun, the leader. At this thought, everyone present seemed to be struck by lightning, feeling both scorched and tender inside. Qianjin sat down heavily on a chair, his gaze vacant, as if he had been hit hard enough to spit blood. At that moment, a scene suddenly flashed in his mind. Su Chun, don't think that just because you're a top student, you're something extraordinary. One moment you say you have something to do, the next you say you don't like alcohol. How can a little drinking be life-threatening? You're just a college student, talking as if you have national affairs to handle. You're not even in society yet. You see me as a frog in a well. Once you step into society, you'll realize that you and I are just drifting in the vast sky. You need to learn to flatter people like me. Otherwise, you won't have a good future. These words he had once said replayed in his mind like a movie, refusing to fade away. Only now did he realize how much of a clown he truly was. He had dared to tell the leader of the empire that they were just drifting in the vast sky, and he even expected him to flatter himself. Looking back, he was the one who was drifting, the real clown. Meanwhile, Xinlan quickly edited a long message after learning that Su Chun was actually the leader. Su Chun, I actually like you. Can we be together? I don't care if you have a partner. You know I'm a traditional girl, and I can be your little secret. She eagerly awaited Su Chun's response, but all she received was the system's cold reminder. The other party is not your friend. Deleted. Xinlan's heart trembled violently. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Su Chun had actually deleted her. At that moment, it felt as if she had missed out on a fortune, and she regretted it deeply. Xinlan's friend was so scared she started crying. Xiaolan, do you think after we just said all that about Su Chun, he might send someone to take us out? Manager Zhao looked at everyone present with confusion, not understanding why their expressions were so strange, but he didn't ask further. At this moment, Qianjin wanted to leave this place badly. He stood up and was about to walk outside. However, a group of uniformed individuals blocked his way. The leader, wearing sunglasses, took out a stack of documents. Sorry, everyone. You need to sign a confidentiality agreement before you can leave. Everyone was stunned again. They had to sign a confidentiality agreement? Just how important was Su Chun that even a meeting required such a protocol? Chapter 39. The terrifying abilities of BT shock everyone. The helicopter flew steadily in the sky, the rotor blades producing a rhythmic roar. Have all personal matters been taken care of? Yes, we need to prepare for the drill. Lu Qingji sat in his seat, looking at various materials related to the actual combat drill. Su Chun nodded calmly. All taken care of. He turned to gaze out at the flowing sea of clouds, thoughtfully saying, it's clear that this drill is particularly important to those above. I will do my best to perfectly showcase the combat capabilities of the prototype mech. Lu Qingji smiled with satisfaction. At that moment, he suddenly realized something and asked curiously, Su Chun, do you refer to the mech you created as the prototype? What does this mean? Do you have plans for a second or third generation mech? Su Chun chuckled lightly. Of course, mechs are an important direction for the future of military development. Since we've already taken the first step, we should be prepared to take the second and third steps. We don't know how far others have advanced, but what we need to do now is to catch up as much as possible. Mentioning others made Su Chun a bit tense. The mechs in this world were unexpectedly powerful, and it was crucial to catch up to their pace quickly. Lu Qingji did not expect Su Chun's thoughts to be so forward-looking. While they were still reveling in the joy of Su Chun creating a powerful mech for the country, he was already planning to develop new mechs. Having such enthusiastic research talents was a sign of the nation's prosperity. Beside them, Zhao Deru was also inspired by Su Chun's words. An excellent man brings a sense of security to a woman. But this man could bring security to the country, especially the determination in Su Chun's eyes when he spoke, as if he was preparing for a great mission. He was exceptionally charming. How had she not noticed before how good-looking Su Chun's profile was? Zhao Deru rested her chin on her hand, staring at Su Chun's side profile, and unconsciously became a bit mesmerized. Lu Qingji patted Su Chun's shoulder. I thank you on behalf of the country for your dedication, but you also need to pay attention to balancing work and rest. I heard from the professors at the school that when you get busy with research, you work like you're risking your life. You need to take care of your health. He then looked at Zhao Deru. Could you please take more care to ensure Su Chun doesn't overexert himself? Don't worry, Chief. I'll make sure to pull him away to sleep when the time comes. Zhao Deru replied. However, as soon as she said it, her cheeks turned slightly red, realizing there might be some ambiguity in her words. Luckily, Lu Qingji didn't think much of it. He continued, the Eastern Theater Command is also taking this exercise very seriously. They even proactively postponed preparations by 2 days. This is the first time in previous exercises. It seems they are really serious about this. Su Chun, you need to work hard too. Su Chun nodded, indicating there was no problem. He actually hoped that the Eastern Theater Command would be well prepared. This way, the performance of the prototype mech could be showcased even better, especially the particle laser cannon. He wanted to take this testing opportunity to display it well. Meanwhile, on the other side, at a large military equipment research and development base of the Eastern Theater Command, a group of over a dozen professors from the individual combat equipment project team were gathered in a spacious and bright laboratory. In the center of the laboratory stood a mech with a sci-fi design, exuding mechanical beauty, as if it was a sci-fi product that had traveled from the future. Ma Jiqiang stood beside the mecha, his face radiating an unmistakable pride, as if this were his masterpiece. The professors around him were all members of the individual combat project development team. The team leader, Chen Xiangyang, was a handsome man in his 40s who didn't look his age. Despite his good looks, he was always serious, deeply focused on research. However, at this moment, Chen Xiangyang was no longer his usual self. He examined the mecha with the wonder of a child seeing a beloved toy, unable to hide the smile on his face. Old Ma, stop pretending and tell us what is so special about this mecha. I heard it can fly. How does it actually fly? Ma Jiqiang cleared his throat and replied, Old Chun, don't think you can be disrespectful just because you're my junior. I'm not pretending. After a brief protest, he began to introduce the mecha to everyone. I believe you've heard some rumors about this mecha. That's right. It is our country's first-generation combat mecha. With its high-energy solid-state power source and excellent flight system, it can fly at high altitudes for extended periods while performing various complex maneuvers. Because it has a jet system, it can reach terrifying speeds. It can even leave our advanced fighter jets trailing behind. The professors exchanged glances, astonished by what they heard. Not only could it fly, but its speed could also surpass that of advanced fighter jets. What kind of terrifying technology was this? Generally speaking, technology develops gradually, first walking, then flying. And only after mastering flight does one consider speed in comparisons with faster aircraft. But this mecha seemed to break all the rules. It was built to have overwhelming performance that could surpass fifth-generation fighters right out of the gate. Chen Xiangyang couldn't help but exclaim, with such speed and abundant energy. This is simply a weapon of war. Perhaps in the future, we won't need delivery services. We could just have the mecha deliver packages directly to whoever we want. His serious tone made everyone laugh. What a concept, home delivery. But that wasn't the strongest aspect of this first-generation mecha. Ma Jiqiang continued, besides its excellent combat performance. What impresses me the most is its fully intelligent technology. The crowd was taken aback by his words. They understood intelligence, as it was a significant focus of many studies in this era. However, Ma Jiqiang's tone suggested that this mecha's intelligent system was different from the flashy technologies out there. Amid the puzzled looks from everyone, Ma Jiqiang spoke up, BT, tell me, when will your creator return to the base? A synthesized mechanical voice responded. Report to Professor Ma Jiqiang. My creator's plane has just landed and is currently on the way. Upon hearing this, everyone was somewhat incredulous. However, team leader Chen Xiangyang remarked, this artificial intelligence is quite interesting. But it can't be as incredible as you're making it out to be, right? Isn't it simple to calculate the time of departure for the creator and the journey to the base to determine when he will arrive? Professor Ma smiled calmly. But did I tell BT the information you mentioned? I just casually asked him a question. Chun Xianyang's expression froze, and his pupils gradually widened. If that's the case, it sounds a bit terrifying. He couldn't help but ask, BT, how did you know when your creator would arrive at the base? BT replied, hello Professor Chen Xianyang. In fact, I've been collecting information from your previous conversations. I learned that your general took a Black Hawk helicopter to Low City to pick up my creator. I determined the location of the helicopter my creator was on by hacking into a satellite. This was quite simple for me. Hearing BT's explanation, Chen Xianyang was so shocked that his jaw nearly dropped. This artificial intelligence is incredibly intelligent. He had thought it was a humanoid AI similar to Xiao AI or Siri. He never expected it to be this advanced. This is simply future technology. Chen Xianyang couldn't help but ask again, with such intelligence, can it autonomously complete tasks without human control? BT, this is a basic function for BT. Wow, it really can operate without control. That's unbeatable. If we could create tens of thousands of BTs, wouldn't it be possible to dominate the world without a single soldier? Professor Ma, whose team created such a terrifying thing. Chen Xianyang couldn't help but ask. Just then, the laboratory door was pushed open, and Lu Qingji led Su Chun and the others in. Upon seeing the newcomers, Professor Ma gestured for them to look over. Sure enough, speaking of the devil, there he is, the creator of this mech. A surprised voice suddenly came from the crowd. Is that him? Our Commander Lu Qingji? Chapter 40. So strong. Is there a trump card? What Commander Lu? Little Su, you're here. Just in time, they want to meet you. Ma Jiqiang waved at Su Chun. Su Chun turned to look at the group of professors surrounding him, feeling a bit puzzled. At this moment, Chen Xianyang stepped out of the crowd, wearing an incredulous expression as he walked towards Su Chun step by step. Old Ma, are you saying this mech is the work of this young man? Do you think we are fools? Ma Jiqiang shrugged. Believe it or not. Just then, a mechanical synthesized voice suddenly sounded. Iron Yu. I'm very pleased to see you again. It's been 77 hours since we last met. I was worried you might encounter an accident, so I took the liberty of hacking into a satellite system to track your movements. Su Chun approached him. Your actions could potentially cause unnecessary panic. This won't happen again. BT received. Wow. The exchange between the two left everyone, including Chen Xianyang, almost stunned. At this moment, they also believed that Su Chun was indeed the creator of this mech. After all, the rumors said that the creator of this mech was a young person. But they didn't expect it to be such a young person. The interaction between this person and the mech was like that of two friends, even closer than Ma Jiqiang. And that special name, Iron Yu. The mech usually calls others by their names, but in front of Su Chun, it refers to him as Iron Yu. This must be a term of endearment from the mech, reserved only for its master. Equally shocked was Zhao Daru. She had always been curious about the mechs created by Su Chun. Now, seeing the true form of this mech, she couldn't help but feel a dreamy sensation in her heart. It was as if she had crossed over into a sci-fi world. This was truly a product of the sci-fi realm, yet it appeared real in the real world. What an impressive creation. No wonder Su Chun is a colonel at such a young age. He has produced such a powerful war machine for the country. The rank of colonel suits Su Chun perfectly. And this is just one of the mech's achievements. Let's not forget that Su Chun also created a particle laser cannon. Another terrifying weapon. With the addition of this particle laser cannon, Zhao Daru felt that Su Chun's rank should rise even further. What kind of terrifying genius is this? Her curiosity about Su Chun grew even stronger. Iron Yu. My internal hormone detection system has found a trace of hormones in the air that contain a slight hint of admiration. After testing, the source of this hormone is your female companion. Su Chun was taken aback. What do you mean? BT was about to explain when it suddenly noticed Zhao Daru's eyes, which seemed to contain a powerful anger. It was as if she was saying, you dare to explain it to me? After complex calculations, BT quickly said, sorry, Iron Yu. It's not convenient to explain under the current circumstances. Everyone felt a bit puzzled, not knowing what was going on. Finally, Zhao Daru let out a sigh of relief. Stupid mech. At least you know how to be smart. She pursed her lips, thinking, humph, talking about hormones of admiration, it seems this mech can make mistakes too. She glanced at Su Chun, shook her head, and reached to touch her own face, only to find it a bit hot. Su Chun didn't think much of it. Could something be wrong? Just to be safe, before participating in the exercise, I should test BT again. Then, in front of everyone, Su Chun began a detailed inspection of the mech. His expression became serious and focused as he walked steadily to the mech. BT emitted a cold metallic sheen under the light. Su Chun opened the professional testing device he carried with him. It was a small but powerful instrument. It connected to the core system of the mech through a special interface. The moment the connection was completed, the screen of the testing device lit up instantly. A series of complex data began to scroll rapidly. Su Chun squinted slightly, concentrating fully on the screen. His fingers skillfully glided over the interface, like a highly skilled pianist playing a complex piece. His actions also caught the attention of the professors present. They gathered around, looking at the testing equipment. The screen displayed detailed parameters of the mecha's power system, and the output power values were astonishingly high. Professor Chen Xianyang felt a sense of fear and quickly asked Su Chun, Comrade Su Chun, how is this possible? How can the power be so high? Su Chun explained. The power system of the first-generation mecha uses a high-energy reactor technology that can efficiently convert energy into mechanical energy in a very short time. High-energy reactor technology. They had never heard of it. The professor speculated that this might be a new technology developed by Su Chun. From the data available, its output power had already reached an incredibly frightening level. This meant that as long as the energy supply was continuous, the BT mecha could unleash tremendous power in an instant. Whether for acceleration, climbing, or performing high-intensity tactical maneuvers, it could easily accomplish them. Witnessing this, everyone present couldn't help but express their astonishment. Some professors widened their eyes, while others slightly opened their mouths, their faces filled with disbelief. Su Chun didn't stop there. He continued to switch to the data interface of the protection system. A line of numbers appeared, showing the protection strength of the mecha. It was another set of terrifying data. Professor Ma Jiqiang, who was very familiar with the materials of the first-generation mecha, introduced. This is a new type of composite armor material made from a mixture of various high-strength alloys and special materials. After multiple tests and simulations, this armor material has achieved a terrifying level of defensive performance. It can provide reliable protection for the mecha against conventional weapons and high-intensity explosive impacts. At this moment, Chun Xiangyang suddenly said, "If we apply this material to our armored vehicles, could we create invincible armored vehicles?" Ma Jiqiang chuckled, "Of course, but it's unnecessary. Would you put a bulletproof vest on a rat?" Upon hearing this, everyone realized it was indeed unnecessary. Such advanced materials were certainly better used on mechas. Someone pondered for a long time, and then couldn't help but smile wryly. Armored vehicles had become like rats. It seemed that this era was truly about to change. Subsequently, during the testing process, Su Chun also showcased the data of the mecha's intelligent control system. The terrifying computing efficiency seemed as if 100 supercomputers had been miniaturized and integrated into the mecha. This led to a chorus of disbelief from the professors. The testing continued to delve deeper. Every piece of technical data demonstrated by the first-generation mecha struck the hearts of the professors like a heavy hammer. Their initial surprise gradually transformed into profound shock, giving them a whole new understanding of the advanced nature of this mecha. At this moment, Chun Xiangyang looked at Lu Qingji with a mix of amusement and frustration. "Director Lu, actually, I was coaxed by those guys in the Air Force to help them gather more information about the mecha. Now that I've collected quite a bit of intelligence, do you think I should tell them? I'm afraid it might dampen their enthusiasm." Upon hearing this, everyone was momentarily stunned. Ma Jiqiang teased, "Good job, you spy? It has unexpectedly landed on our heads." The higher-ups allow both sides to use various means to gather intelligence before the conflict. After all, we are all on the same side, and it's also a way to assess each other's intelligence-gathering capabilities. The amount of information gathered depends on one's own abilities. Lu Qingji, you can judge this for yourself. However, I must tell you that this is just some data and does not mean you truly understand this mecha. Moreover, we still have a trump card that hasn't been revealed. As he spoke, he glanced at Su Chun, and the two exchanged a knowing smile. This smile was full of meaning. Meanwhile, Chun Xiangyang was completely bewildered. No way. It's already so powerful. There's still a trump card? 2 days later, the live combat exercise officially commenced. Chapter 41. The exercise begins, facing 5th-generation fighters and 4th-and-a-half-generation fighters. 2 days later, in the vast military exercise area, all preparations were in place. This significant live test was like a volcano ready to erupt, containing endless power beneath a calm surface. At the core military base of the Eastern Theater, 36 aircraft were lined up neatly on the runway, resembling a group of steel eagles about to take flight. Under the sunlight, they shone with an awe-inspiring metallic luster. To ensure the smooth conduct of this live test, each aircraft underwent strict maintenance and adjustments. These aircraft were divided into 4 combat squadrons, each with its unique combat style and focus. Participating were not only the J-20, but also the J-16. The design of the J-20 is a perfect blend of art and technology. Its smooth lines are not only for aesthetics, but also to minimize air resistance during high-speed flight. When the engines are started, the powerful thrust allows it to soar through the clouds at incredible speeds, leaving the enemy with no time to react. Its unique stealth capabilities enable it to vanish from enemy radar screens. In terms of weapon systems, the J-20 is equipped with advanced air-to-air missiles that possess long-range strike capabilities, delivering fatal blows before the enemy even realizes it. At the same time, the onboard cannon is also formidable. In close combat, these cannons can shred enemy aircraft like a flaming sword. Meanwhile, there is also a squadron of J-16. As a 4th-and-a-half-generation fighter, the J-16 has been tasked with protecting the airspace long before the J-20 was introduced. It also boasts impressive performance. The airframe is sturdy and durable, allowing it to maintain good performance in complex and harsh combat environments, whether in high temperatures, extreme cold, or high humidity. Its payload capacity is top-notch. In addition to conventional bombs and missiles, it can also carry advanced electronic warfare pods. These pods can interfere with enemy radar and communication systems, creating favorable conditions for our combat operations. On the battlefield, the advanced fighter jets not only engage in intense aerial combat with enemy aircraft, but also execute precise strikes against ground targets. They can carry precision-guided munitions to surgically target critical enemy military facilities and command posts. When these steel eagles soar through the sky, Everyone present can't help but look up in awe. A wave of indescribable excitement rises among the crowd. Especially among the older generals, tears of emotion gleam in their eyes, reflecting their nostalgia. From once being impoverished to now witnessing fifth-generation fighters freely dominating the skies, the hardships of this journey are known only to them. The exercise commander, Wei Jiantong, can't help but smile, clearly moved by the scene. Such powerful aircraft are piloted by elite aviators who are undaunted even when facing multiple adversaries. Today, even against a formidable opponent with a possibly outdated weapon system, a battle is still possible. Wei Jiantong's confidence grows. Also observing this live combat test is Zhao Konghua, the head of the Aviation Research Institute. He led the development of the fifth-generation fighters and is eager to see how they compare against the first-generation mechs. In addition to these two, many senior generals from the Eastern Theater Command are also participating in this groundbreaking live exercise. Meanwhile, Su Chun stands tall with a briefcase in hand, gazing at the aircraft in the sky, his eyes glimmering with excitement. As a military enthusiast in his past life, he is clearly captivated by the spectacle. The J-20 and J-16 are the top forces of the Air Force. Ma Jiqiang and Lu Qingji stand beside him, equally moved. Although this is an exercise, both the J-20 and J-16 are their prized assets, deserving of equal affection. How about you, Su Chun? Are you scared given the scale of the opposing forces? Lu Qingji's voice breaks in. 36 aircraft, for air squadrons. This is no small display. Even Zhao Daru can't help but gasp in amazement. Su Chun shakes his head. It's fine. I'm quite confident in the mechs I've developed. Lu Qingji suddenly laughs. Actually, I'm a bit scared. I'm worried that you might get too carried away and turn the exercise into a real battle. If that happens, those young ones are in for it. Zhao Daru is slightly taken aback, surprised. The Eastern Theater Command has deployed so many aircraft. In terms of numbers, Su Chen's mechs are at a significant disadvantage. Yet, he still believes the opposing forces would be in trouble. Are the combat capabilities of these mechs that formidable? Su Chen smiles calmly. Don't worry, Commander. The weapon systems of the first-generation mechs have all been modified for simulated launches. Even if I wanted to do that, the conditions don't allow it. Lu Qingji chuckles. Don't think I don't know. If your mechs really wanted to fight, they wouldn't need any weapons at all. Just bare hands would be enough to give those guys a run for their money. Su Chen grins. Lu Qingji is right. After all, the alloy materials on the first-generation mechs are exceptionally excellent. With the terrifying energy and power systems as support, even barehanded, one could crush a whole fleet of fighter jets. Just as this was said, a fighter jet swooped down provocatively. Lu Qingji recognized that jet and immediately laughed, cursing, that brat Wang Feng is challenging you. You made him feel frustrated earlier, and now he wants to vent. He then turned to Su Chun and said, you should be ready to start too. Su Chun nodded. Meanwhile, the spectators watching the exercise were puzzled. The fighter jets had already been deployed, yet there was still no sign of their mechs. Just when they were about to lose patience, a young man appeared in their view. He was carrying a briefcase and wore a brand new military uniform, looking strikingly handsome with a hint of heroism. Yet, there was still no sight of any mechs. Some pilots were equally astonished. They couldn't find any trace of the mechs. At that moment of confusion, the command to officially start the exercise thundered in their ears, breaking the previously calm atmosphere. Simultaneously, the young man moved. He leisurely placed the briefcase on the ground, and then, to the bewilderment of the onlookers, the briefcase seemed to shatter, transforming into individual metal components that converged onto Su Chun. In the end, they formed a mech that shimmered with a cold metallic sheen, standing proudly and shining brightly. This scene stunned everyone, including Wei Jiantong and the pilots, causing their previously confident expressions to turn serious. It looked like a scene straight out of a sci-fi movie, coming to life before their eyes. Those unaware might think they were dreaming. On the stands, many high-ranking officers stood up in shock, gazing at the spectacle. Meanwhile, the fighter jets that had just approached seemed to sense a killing intent and instantly changed direction, creating distance. At that moment, the first-generation mech slowly hovered, blue flames igniting beneath it. After about 2 seconds, propelled by powerful thrust, Su Chun soared into the sky, reaching the heavens. BT Iron Drive. The BT was ready for battle. Su Chun said, great. Let these comrades feel the shock brought by technology. However, for safety's sake, Su Chun suddenly remembered something. Chapter 42, The Untraceable Mechanical Phantom. Su Chun activated the mech and shot into the sky at a terrifying speed. The whooshing sound was even more impressive than those advanced fighter jets. Ma Jiqiang laughed and cursed, that brat. In fact, the first-generation mech could fly completely silently. Especially at night, it was like a ghost in the dark, killing without a sound. Su Chun created such a huge commotion on purpose, intending to put psychological pressure on the opposing pilots. However, once he reached the sky, his subsequent actions left everyone bewildered. Su Chun stood in midair. The armor on the shoulders opened, revealing 2 laser reflectors. Su Chun fired into the void. Instantly, 2 lasers were shot out. Not only was their speed impressive, but they also traveled a great distance. However, this was just a simulated launch after modifications and could not cause any physical harm. Su Chun remarked. It seems that the effect of this weapon system after the upgrade is quite good. He was concerned that the simulated launch system might malfunction and accidentally fire real lasers that could injure his allies. Although he had conducted many tests beforehand, it was still necessary to run a self-test just to be safe. His actions immediately drew the attention of many pilots. Is this the launch system of that mech? It can fire lasers? The speed looks pretty fast, and the range is quite far, not inferior to our missiles. This was the first time they had seen the weaponry of the first-generation mech. They had originally thought that their opponents lacked a mature weapon system, but it seemed they had underestimated them. Fortunately, the opponent's weapons were not so overwhelming as to leave them feeling powerless. Inside the command center, the overall commander Wei Jiantong calmly nodded as he observed the scene through the large glass. Although our aircraft's weapon system cannot launch attacks in the form of lasers, the range and destructive power of our missiles are not far behind. This battle seemed to hold promise. Zhao Kongbo agreed. It appears that the timeline was too rushed, otherwise. With Su Chen's abilities, he could definitely enhance the mech's weapon system and create even more powerful weapons. As Su Chen confirmed that the weapon system was functioning properly, the Eastern Theater also reacted. The command center was bustling with activity. Various instruments were flashing with lights, resembling a beating heart pumping vitality into this tense battle. Numerous military experts and tactical commanders focused intently on the data and images on the screen, which changed continuously like tides. Every subtle shift tugged at their nerves. Commander, it seems something is wrong. A voice broke into Wei Jiantong's ear, prompting him to hurry over. What's going on? Wei Jiantong looked at the screen. Soon, he discovered the issue. Radar cannot lock on. Yes, Commander, our radar system cannot lock onto the opponent's mech at all. The opponent's mech appears as an invisible ghost on our radar. The Eastern Theater, guarding the eastern gateway of the country, not only boasted the strongest air force, but also had the most advanced equipment. Their radar system had undergone countless upgrades and optimizations, consistently able to lock onto targets in previous combat tests. Whether it was high-speed aircraft or stealthy vessels, nothing could escape its watchful eye. However, against Su Chen's mech, it seemed to have lost its former prowess. No matter how the technicians racked their brains to adjust parameters, from the most basic frequency settings to complex signal filtering algorithms, they could not stabilize the radar's lock on Su Chen's mech. Wei Jiantong exclaimed in disbelief, impossible. Even your radar system cannot detect Su Chen's mech? Zhao Kongbo's voice sounded. Wei Jiantong was taken aback. What do you mean by ours? Zhao Kongbo replied. Previously, the detection radar at Lu Qingji's base couldn't detect the movements of the mech either. And you have the most advanced detection radar in our country. I thought it would at least pick up some trace of the mech. I didn't expect it to fail again. Wei Jiantong's expression gradually became serious. This meant that the mech had terrifying stealth capabilities. Just thinking about it was frightening. During the day, the pilots could visually spot the opposing mech, so they wouldn't be completely blind. But what about at night? That would truly turn it into a ghost in the dark, capable of striking down aircraft without a trace. The exercise commander couldn't help but feel a chill. At this moment, the pilots in the sky also realized this. The mech was clearly right in front of them, but there was no trace of it on the radar system. In modern warfare, losing the ability to lock onto targets with radar was like losing one's eyes in the dark, leaving them to blindly search. With no other choice, the pilots had to rely on the most primitive method of visually searching for targets. They put on special helmets that connected their vision closely with the aircraft's observation system. Meanwhile, Su Chen began to take action. The strange speed reached its peak, making it even more difficult for the aircraft to detect the mech. In the vast sky and complex terrain, they widened their eyes, scanning every inch of space intently, trying to find Su Chen's mech amidst the expansive airspace and intricate landscape. The pressure in their hearts increased invisibly. Was there really no way out? If they couldn't even detect the opponent's movements, how could they counter? In the command room, the voice of a tactical expert broke the brief silence, causing everyone to feel anxious. At that moment, Zhao Kongbo suddenly spoke up. Retrieve the data from when Su Chen used the laser weapon before. Everyone was taken aback, seeing no one moving. Wei Jiantong immediately added, do as Director Zhao says. Only then did his subordinates act. Soon, the data was presented. Zhao Kongbo immediately smiled. Wei Jiantong was also pleased. There was a solution. When the mech launched an attack, whether it was firing energy weapons or projecting physical ammunition, it required a large amount of energy to be drawn from its internal energy core. This energy mobilization and release could potentially create energy fluctuations around the mech, which might be captured by radar systems or other detection devices. Based on this hypothesis, Zhao Kongbo had the previous data retrieved. Sure enough, they found a trace on the radar. Wei Jiantong quickly relayed this information to the pilots. At the same time, a new combat plan was formulated. They intended to take advantage of the moment Su Chen's mech launched an attack to seize that fleeting opportunity to lock onto the target and fire air-to-air missiles. When the mech attacked, it would inevitably expose some flaws or show signs of energy fluctuations, which might be the best time for them to lock onto the target. This plan instantly boosted the pilot's confidence. Even Wang Feng, who was well aware of the terrifying capabilities of the mecha, thought it was a good idea. So, they began to maneuver in the sky, closely monitoring the radar system, not wanting to miss any fluctuations. Soon, they finally got their chance. A flicker appeared on the radar screen. It was a rather vague signal, seemingly indicating the presence of the mecha. Everyone felt a surge of excitement, as if they had seen a glimmer of hope in the darkness. Almost instinctively, they began to operate, preparing to launch missiles. Their fingers trembled slightly on the control buttons, a mix of tension and excitement. At that moment, they seemed to see the dawn of victory, envisioning the scene of the mecha being hit by missiles. However, Their actions were still a beat too slow. Just as the radar flickered, before they could complete the locking and launching procedures, a resigned voice came through the communication system. Sorry, comrades. I've been destroyed. Chapter 43, Extreme Testing, Terrifying Laser Weapons. Destroyed? What does destroyed mean? Hitting is hitting. What is this about being destroyed? The squadron leader Zhao Kuo asked. The pilot who got hit explained. The simulation system informed me that the laser fired by the opposing mecha was too powerful after being hit. The aircraft was destroyed in an explosion. The pilots were instantly stunned. An explosion? Destroyed? Is the power of this laser really that immense? Fortunately, this was just a drill. If it were a real battlefield, wouldn't they be obliterated without even a chance to parachute out? Some pilots wanted to ask more questions, but the communication was cut off due to the pilot's demise. The aircraft turned around and returned to base. The generals in the viewing area also noticed the returning aircraft. Their hearts stirred. What is going on? How could one aircraft return to base in less than a minute after the drill started? Could it be a malfunction? That can't be. Didn't we check everything multiple times before the exercise began? Just as these generals were puzzled, news reached them that an aircraft from the Eastern Theater had been shot down. They were immediately shocked. Some generals from the Eastern Theater stood up in disbelief, their eyes shining with incredulity. How could this be? In such a short time, the Eastern Theater had already lost an aircraft? Is the power of this mecha really that terrifying? It hasn't even been a minute. At this rate, the exercise will end in less than an hour. Moreover, these pilots are elite among elites. How could they be so easily defeated? Could it be that our pilots are too weak? Weak? How is that possible? Have you forgotten that our pilots from the Eastern Theater previously participated in joint exercises with another nation and achieved the remarkable feat of shooting down 32 aircraft without losing a single one? These are the best of the best. How could they be weak? It must be because we deployed too many aircraft, allowing the mecha to exploit the gaps. No matter. Let us continue observing. Inside the command center, Wei Jiantong's expression was exceptionally grim. He was the highest-ranking officer at the Air Force Base in the Eastern Theater and was serving as the overall commander of the exercise. While he could maintain fairness and justice, he was still from the Eastern Theater. The opposing mechs, despite being at a significant numerical disadvantage, were able to easily shoot down their aircraft. And it was a fifth-generation fighter. It truly made him feel a burning embarrassment. Moreover, it set a record for the fastest aircraft downed. In previous engagements with opponents who had weaker air forces, they had never taken down an enemy so quickly. The previous record for the fastest downing was 32 seconds, which was considered nearly impossible to surpass. However, the record set by Su Chun was 43 seconds. 43 seconds to shoot down a fifth-generation aircraft. Terrifying. Not only that, after the engagement, they discovered that their earlier plan to use energy fluctuations to lock onto the mechs seemed to have failed. The reason was that the opposing mechs fired lasers too quickly. Laser weapons are inherently fast. Moreover, Su Chun wasn't foolish enough to just stand there and fire. He was moving at high speed while launching. Thus, even if the radar detected the energy fluctuations, it wouldn't be able to lock on and press the launch button in time before the enemy had already moved to an unknown location. Just as everyone was at a loss, the detection radar suddenly reacted. Commander, we have detected an anomalous communication signal. With this signal, we can lock onto the mech's position. What? Wei Jiantong and Zhao Konghua hurried over. They were thrilled to see the signal displayed on the screen. The signal was remarkably stable, with one end connected to the mech and the other to a control tower. And that control tower was precisely at Su Chun's command base. Because of its proximity to the base, they could quickly determine the enemy's position using the advanced radar system of the Eastern Theater. The communication established between the enemy base and Su Chun's mech gave them great confidence. They immediately shared this signal with various air squadrons. Soon, they located Su Chun's position. On Lu Qingji's side, communication was established with Su Chun, primarily to test whether the communication system could function properly in actual combat. After all, mechs needed to communicate with headquarters to provide feedback during missions. Communication was essential. However, once the test was completed, they could cut it off. Thus, after confirming that there were no issues with the test, Lu Qingji prepared to disconnect the signal. But Su Chun indicated that it wasn't necessary. Commander, I feel that they might have some difficulty locking onto my position. Let's give the opposing team some space to demonstrate their capabilities. Lu Qingji was both amused and bewildered. And Professor Ma Jiqiang couldn't help but stifle a laugh. Then let's keep the communication open. It's just right to test the continuity of the communication. Su Chun nodded, understood. The communication remained uninterrupted, maintaining a good connection. This led the pilots of the 4 squadrons to believe they had seized an opportunity and quickly converged towards Su Chun's position. They successfully locked onto Su Chun's location. Just at that moment, suddenly, there was a flicker on the radar. They were puzzled. Soon, they discovered that another aircraft was returning to base. Another one had been shot down. They had finally seized an opportunity, but hadn't had time to attack the opponent. Their side had lost another aircraft. The remaining 8 fighter jets of this squadron were rushing towards the target at high speed. They were now capable of locking onto the opponent. They began to execute their planned tactic of exchanging multiple attacks. Specifically, they aimed to deplete the target's energy using 8 fighter jets. According to their calculations, the energy consumption of the laser weapons would be significant. At the same time, the target would have to engage in intensive and energy-draining sustained flight. As long as they persisted, they could exhaust the target's energy, leading to their ultimate victory. Thus, these 8 fighter jets, filled with determination, charged towards the target. The real confrontation seemed about to begin. The commanders in both command centers nervously watched this scene. The high-ranking officers in the viewing area couldn't help but stand up, their eyes fixed on the sky, waiting for the upcoming thrilling aerial battle. Neither side disappointed them. An intense offensive and defensive drama unfolded. When the 8 fighter jets were at a distance from the target, they pressed the button. They launched air-to-air missiles against the target. At the same time, they engaged their engines to fly at high speed, forcing the target to engage in a high-intensity counterattack. The buzzing sound of the simulated launch system echoed in the air. The target quickly determined the attack trajectory and pushed its speed to the limit. Consequently, everyone present witnessed the impressive strength of this mecha when facing advanced fighter jets. It skillfully maneuvered through the various aircraft, evading the incoming air-to-air missiles. With terrifying speed, the missiles could not hit the target at all. In the process, the target executed an even more impressive maneuver. Facing the incoming missiles, it flew beneath one of the fighter jets, using its arm-mounted rocket launchers to generate reverse thrust, offsetting the forward momentum of the 5th-generation fighter. Thus, one 5th-generation fighter was left hovering in midair. Meanwhile, the air-to-air missiles approached, but the target easily evaded them, ultimately hitting that fighter jet instead. Upon taking control of the aircraft, the target discovered that inside the cockpit was a fairly attractive female pilot. She was actually crying. Looking at the target, her big, sparkling eyes were filled with tears, as if she had suffered a great injustice. The target, feeling a bit embarrassed, scratched its head. Once she regained her composure, it let her go back to base. Soon, the target freed its hands, stopped dodging, and began to take the initiative. The simulated laser beams were set to maximum power. Since they were simulated beams, the target conducted an extreme test. At this moment, it almost went too far. The launchers on its shoulders unleashed unprecedented power as the output was pushed to the limit. The originally thick laser, in an instant of firing, transformed into a towering beam of light, striking down all remaining aircraft. Under its terrifying power, the last 7 aircraft were quickly shot down. Meanwhile, the energy within the mech was running low. Su Chun was startled. Thankfully, it was a simulated launch. Otherwise, the strength of that strike could have instantly destroyed a village. The other aircraft were too frightened to approach. Wei Jiantong's gaze changed as he looked at the sudden flash that had appeared. Damn it, who sent Su Chun that flashbang? However, when he saw a total of 8 aircraft heading towards the base, he realized this was definitely not a flashbang. That was their weapon system. Chapter 44. Damn it. How many mechs do they have? 8 aircraft were flying towards the Air Force Base. Watching their retreating figures, the generals in the stands felt an unprecedented shock. It had only been a few minutes, and an entire air squadron had been shot down like this. The weapon system of that mech exceeded our expectations, especially that massive beam of light. Thankfully, it was a simulated launch. If it were real ammunition, we would have directly lost an air squadron. This mech's combat power is impressive. It's truly a weapon of war. I heard its developer is a student, which is absurd. The expressions of these generals grew increasingly astonished. Meanwhile, the pilots in the air were also feeling some trepidation towards the weapon system of the prototype mech. However, they believed they had found a chance for victory. Although they had just lost 8 aircraft, they had forced out the prototype mech's strongest attack. They speculated that the mech must be low on energy. This was their opportunity to strike. As long as they surrounded it and engaged in close-range aerial combat, using their cannons to restrict its movement, they might be able to take it down. However, while this idea was good, they soon discovered that the prototype mech suddenly accelerated to full speed. It vanished from their sight. The prototype mech instantly boosted its speed to 3 Machs. This left the 5th-generation fighters trailing behind, unable to visually track its movements. However, they could capture communication signals to lock onto the mech's position. Then, the group of aircraft pursued based on the obtained location. Unfortunately, the opponent's speed was too fast. Even with full acceleration, they could not catch up. But they did not feel discouraged. Instead, they were excited. News from the command center indicated that they detected the energy fluctuations within the prototype mech diminishing. The difference from the previous energy fluctuations was significant. This indicated that its energy was nearly depleted. Even if the opponent had a solar charging system, it couldn't replenish quickly enough. This was indeed the perfect opportunity to surround it. Wang Feng was extremely excited. It seemed he could redeem himself. However, just as they were getting farther away from the command center, the radar suddenly flickered. An unacceptable scene appeared before them. Suddenly, the mech's position on the radar vanished. Command center, what's going on? How did the enemy mech disappear? Asked Captain Zhao Kuo of the 1st Squadron. At that moment, the command center was also perplexed. The enemy had indeed disappeared from the radar. Wei Jiantong analyzed. Could it be that the enemy cut off the communication signal? Or perhaps the mech has exhausted its energy, causing the signal to drop? After considering, he concluded that the latter possibility was the most likely. With that in mind, he quickly urged the pilots to continue the pursuit and conduct a thorough search in the area where the mech last disappeared. Victory seemed to be within reach. However, they had no idea that at that moment, the prototype mech had stealthily arrived at their Air Force base. The mech landed slowly, its heavy body causing a slight tremor on the ground. The research team, who had been closely monitoring the battlefield, felt their hearts leap into their throats. Upon seeing the mech return, they were momentarily stunned. What happened? Has the practical test already ended? Su Chen smiled and said, How is that possible? The battle has just begun. These brief words struck each person's heart like a heavy hammer, instantly filling their previously relaxed moods with tension again. Lu Qingji and Ma Jiqiang rushed over to inquire about the situation. It turned out that Su Chun had just tested the limits of the weapon system and hadn't controlled the force properly. He had released nearly all of the energy. According to the simulation system's calculations, the mech was now in a state close to energy depletion. The BT system had also activated power-saving mode, cutting off all extra power-consuming systems, including the communication system. In reality, the prototype mech hadn't lost much energy at all. However, since this was a practical exercise, it had to be conducted according to the rules. Please replace the energy, Su Chun said. As soon as he finished speaking, a staff member arrived with a high-energy solid-state power source. Following the rehearsed procedure, they successfully replaced the energy for the prototype mech. Su Chun glanced at the time. The energy replacement took only 30 seconds. This was an incredibly terrifying speed. It meant that even if the mech ran out of energy in future battles, it could be replenished in the shortest time possible, allowing for sustained combat capability. Su Chun felt that this practical test was truly meaningful. Various situations that could occur on a real battlefield had been experienced in this test, providing him with invaluable experience. Once the new energy source was replaced, Su Chun once again controlled the mech to take off. The powerful roar of the engine instantly shattered the tranquility of the base. The prototype mech soared into the vast sky like a steel eagle spreading its wings. As it ascended, the airflow around the mech was violently stirred, creating visible vortices. Su Chun's consciousness merged perfectly with the mech. He could feel every subtle change in the air as the mech maneuvered, the agile movement of each joint, and the surge of energy in every part. His proficiency in piloting the mech was becoming increasingly refined. Meanwhile, the pilots who had lost their target were anxiously searching for Su Chun's mech in the vast sky. Initially, they were excited, believing the mech had run out of energy and was waiting quietly for them ahead. However, as they repeatedly searched the area where the mech had vanished, they found no trace of it. This gradually made them realize something was amiss. The signal had clearly been interrupted here. Why couldn't they find it? Was it playing a trick on them? Logically, its energy should have been depleted. How could it have the energy to play tricks? The more they failed to locate their opponent, the greater the pressure they felt. After all, the enemy was hidden while they were exposed. And the enemy possessed terrifying combat capabilities. What could they do? They felt like wanderers groping in the dark, filled with confusion and anxiety. Piloting their aircraft back and forth in the airspace, their eyes were glued to the instrument panel and the scenery outside, not missing any corner where the mech might be concealed. Various commands came through their headsets from the command center, but until they found the target, these commands seemed empty and powerless. In the command center, Wei Jiantong was also frowning. They were closely monitoring the pilot's search situation while analyzing Su Chun's mech's patterns of movement. They understood that this battle had become increasingly complex, and the mystery and strength of Su Chun's mech brought them unprecedented pressure. Just then, the radar suddenly flickered. This slight fluctuation was like a glimmer of dawn in the darkness. Wei Jiantong clenched his fist. Has it appeared? At the same time, these elite pilots also noticed the slight flicker on the radar. This meant the mech was nearby. As they turned their direction towards where the radar had flashed, they suddenly spotted a friendly aircraft heading towards the base. Meanwhile, the communication system picked up the other side's voice. I've been hit. Everyone was stunned. They hadn't even seen where the enemy was yet. Another friendly aircraft had been shot down, and wasn't the enemy out of energy? Captain Zhao Kuo couldn't hold back any longer and cursed loudly. Damn it. How many mechs did the enemy deploy? Chapter 45, Energy Replenishment completed in half a minute. Terrifying endurance in combat. The atmosphere in the vast exercise field was tense and grave. Sunlight filtered through the thin clouds. Yet it couldn't dispel the solemnity that hung over the land. Everyone's gaze was fixed on a formidable mech in the exercise field. This mech was tall and powerful, its metallic exterior shimmering with a cold light under the sun, as if it were a weapon of war from the future. Every movement it made was filled with a sense of power, and each strike sent chills down their spines. Just moments ago, during the intense battle, the first-generation mech displayed an incredible level of power, single-handedly taking on multiple aircraft and achieving results that were almost terrifying. In less than 10 minutes of combat, the Eastern Theater had already sent 10 aircraft back to base, losing more than an entire squadron. If a real conflict were to break out, it would be a severe blow to the air force of the Dragon Nation. Commander Wei Jiantong stood in the command center, his expression serious and resolute. He gazed at the large screen in front of him, which displayed real-time footage of the exercise. Captain Zhao Kuo of the 1st Squadron contacted the command center, urgently inquiring about the mech status. Commander Wei, what is going on? Wasn't the energy of the opposing mech already depleted? How can there still be subsequent attacks? Is there more than one mech involved? Could the one in front of us be the enemy's second mech? Zhao Kuo's speculation reached the ears of other pilots, and a sense of despair began to spread. They were quite resistant to the idea of two mechs participating in the exercise. One mech was already quite challenging. If a second one showed up, what chance would they have? They might as well give up. Of course, the pilots of the Dragon Nation were not cowards. But since this was not real combat, their fighting spirit could not be fully ignited in this exercise. The most critical factor was still the mech's overwhelming strength. Its weapon system caused damage that not only had a sufficient range, but also tremendous power. Just moments ago, that terrifying beam had taken out 8 aircraft in an instant, leaving them still shaken. Fortunately, this was just a training exercise. If they truly encountered the enemy on the battlefield, they could only imagine how devastating it would be. Wei Jiantong slightly raised his chin, also feeling the intense gaze of tactical experts and officers in the command center. They were puzzled about how many mechs the enemy had deployed for this operation. In fact, if it weren't for their thorough understanding of the exercise information, Wei Jiantong himself might have wondered if the enemy had sent out a second mech. He took a deep breath, his gaze firm as he confidently informed them. There is only one mech involved in the battle. The one you see now is the same one from before. As soon as he said this, the command center fell silent. All the pilots were stunned, as if struck by a thunderbolt, their eyes filled with disbelief. Especially the researchers in the command center. They had confirmed that the energy fluctuations within Su Chen's mech had diminished to a very low level due to the recent intense attacks. The energy was indeed on the brink of depletion. However, this newly emerged mech, while identical in appearance to the previous one, exhibited exceptionally strong energy fluctuations. This indicated that its energy reserves were abundant. How was this possible? When the researchers in the command center reported these findings, everyone's expressions grew increasingly grave. They had sacrificed an entire squadron in a matter of moments to deplete the energy of the opposing mech. Only a few minutes have passed, and the energy has surged again. If it really is the same mech, then its endurance in battle is truly impressive. You have to understand, even their most advanced 5th-generation aircraft take 20 to 30 minutes just to replenish energy after running out. The gap compared to mechs is enormous. Don't underestimate this gap of 10 to 20 minutes. During this time, a mech can destroy dozens of 5th-generation aircraft. Wei Jiantong didn't want to undermine the pilot's confidence, but he also couldn't let misinformation interfere with their judgment of the battlefield situation. If they really imagined a second mech as an enemy, it would have an immeasurable impact on their subsequent actions. So, he repeated once more, there is only one mech. This mech immediately underwent combat testing after it was manufactured. Do you think mechs are something that can be found everywhere? That a second one could be casually produced? Others might not dare to say it. But if it were Su Chen, you never know, thought Dean Xiaocongbo beside him. After all, the first-generation mech was crafted by Su Chen in just 2 months. It has been over a month since he made the first-generation mech. The first mech took him 2 months due to the need for planning and design. After all, everything is difficult at the beginning. If Su Chen wanted to make a second mech, he wouldn't need to spend that long. In just over a month, it is indeed possible for him to produce a new mech. Of course, Wei Jiantong is the overall commander of this exercise. If he guarantees it, then there is absolutely only one mech. Unless the other side violates exercise regulations and sends out a new mech. But doing so would be meaningless. If it was determined from the start to test 2 mechs, with the current strength of Long Country, it would only involve sending additional aircraft for support. There is no need for any sneaky actions. Moreover, there is no need for underhanded tactics. The strength of the enemy mech is already evident. The overall commander has stated that only one mech was sent out, so let us not dwell on it. Wang Feng's voice rang out. Perhaps Su Chen disappeared for a while to return to base for energy replenishment. That's why we didn't notice him. Wang Feng's explanation seemed absurd. Replenishing energy in just a few minutes is quite exaggerated. But apart from this explanation, there seemed to be no other rationale that could make sense. Although hard to believe, they had no choice but to accept it. The other side was indeed ridiculously powerful. Zhao Kun noticed his teammates' fighting spirit was gradually waning, and as the captain, he had the responsibility to stabilize their morale. After pondering for a moment, he suddenly said, although the enemy mech's sustained combat ability is terrifying, it cannot be denied that we almost caught it at the moment its energy was depleted. This also indicates that our strategy of exchanging fire is feasible. We just need to continue using this tactic after Su Chen's mech is about to run out of energy again. If we can stop it from retreating to the base for replenishment, we have another opportunity? Upon hearing his words, everyone felt their confidence rekindle. Although the difficulty was considerable, it was still a good approach. After all, it seemed they had no other options at the moment. Once the battle strategy was determined, the team members regained their confidence. However, at that moment, the radar began to flash wildly. This time, it wasn't just one, but multiple points flashing simultaneously. The flashing frequency was exceptionally fast. Before the team members could react, a resigned voice came through their headsets. The newly formed 4th Squadron of Eastern Airlines has been completely wiped out. Chapter 46. In the midst of conversation, the entire force was annihilated. Boom! This sudden turn of events exploded in the minds of the pilots like a thunderclap. Just moments ago, beams of simulated fire shot towards them at high speed. Those were laser beams released by the mecha. In an instant, 8 aircraft were hit, adding to the previously shot down aircraft from the 4th Squadron. All 9 aircraft of the 4th Squadron had been downed. Zhao Kuo exclaimed, damn it, we were careless. While discussing tactics earlier, they noticed that the mecha piloted by Su Chen had left the battlefield and moved to an area out of their sight. They thought it was safe enough to strategize. Little did they expect that the opponent would launch a beyond visual range attack on them. They couldn't see where the enemy was, yet the enemy could hit them. Moreover, this attack by Su Chen wasn't like the previous massive light beam. It was a normal attack array. This type of attack consumed far less energy than the previous colossal beams. Without needing to expend vast energy, they could easily annihilate an entire air squadron. What terrifying power this was. It also meant that their strategy of exchanging one for many to deplete the mecha's energy was completely bankrupt. Wei Jiantong sighed. It seems that the previous strategy of wearing down Su Qin's mecha's energy was merely a coincidence. The other side was likely testing the limits of their weapon system's lethality, so they used all their energy for combat. Now that the test is over, there's no need to waste a large amount of energy in confrontation. This low-energy attack is indeed very effective. Our strategy of exchanging one for many really doesn't work. He shook his head helplessly while seated. Zhao Konghua also smiled wryly. The technological gap between both sides is like a chasm. It's not something that numbers can easily make up for. Anyway, since they are our own, it doesn't matter who wins or loses. Wei Jiantong suddenly grinned. Actually, even though the enemy's mecha winning would make me feel embarrassed, deep down, I really hope they can win. Preferably in a stunning manner. That way, our nation would have a new formidable weapon. Although his heart was conflicted, hope sparkled in his gaze. On the viewing platform, the senior commanders, seeing another 8 aircraft returning to base, felt it was unbelievable. This time, Su Qin's mech did not use any terrifying beam attacks, yet it effortlessly shot down 8 aircraft. The displayed strength left them speechless and filled with admiration. This is truly formidable combat power. I couldn't even see how our mech took down those planes. When did the Eastern Air Force become so weak? They used to be quite powerful. You defeated ones from the Eastern Air Force. Stop talking nonsense. It's not that they are weak, it's clearly that the opponent is too strong. Times are changing so fast. Just a few years ago, we were still happy about the 5th generation aircraft being deployed, and now just a few years later, before the 5th generation aircraft could even warm up, we've developed mechs that are dozens of times more powerful. It's really a bittersweet happiness. Bittersweet my foot. What a wonderful thing. If you feel sad, you're the last one to get the mechs. Get lost, old man. I want to be the first to deploy. I want to be the first to deploy. On the viewing platform, the senior generals started arguing about who would be the first to deploy the mech. Meanwhile, in the sky, the remaining dozen aircraft dared not attack recklessly. Instead, they chose the most conservative defensive strategy. After all, their numerical advantage was insignificant against the formidable combat power of the opposing mechs. Now they could only seek new breakthrough points while on the defensive. All the aircraft gathered together, not giving the opponent a chance to launch a sneak attack. But doing so also lost the possibility of searching for Su Qin. Looking at the aircraft clustered on the screen, Su Qin couldn't help but want to laugh. Did they think they were safe by gathering together? BT, give our pilots some special training on flying skills. BT, Iron Control, I've picked up on your thoughts, but wouldn't this be a bit inappropriate? Su Qin, not a big deal. They were chasing me earlier, now it's my turn to give them some trouble. BT, understood. The 1st generation mech adjusted its position, and the laser launchers on its shoulders were primed and ready. Soon, whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, hundreds of simulated rays shot towards the aircraft. Previously, with the 5th generation aircraft's tracking capability, it would have been difficult to capture these rays before being hit. Fortunately, Su Qin's mech was far enough away from them. Even though these rays were fast, there was ample time to dodge. Thus, under the pressure of these rays, the remaining dozen aircraft began to evade wildly. They pushed their speed to the limit, showcasing various flying techniques in the sky to dodge. On the viewing platform, all the generals stood up, watching the grand aerial performance before them. There were barrel rolls, rotating like a barrel in horizontal or vertical directions. Quick climbs followed by a rapid 180-degree turn while lowering altitude, then accelerating to resume level flight, known as the Herbst maneuver. There were also pendulum maneuvers, swinging left and right like a pendulum while rapidly changing flight trajectories in the horizontal direction. During the flight, the aircraft performed sharp turns with a very small radius, swaying left and right in an uncoordinated manner like falling leaves in the wind. More than a dozen aircraft showcased their stunts simultaneously, creating a truly grand spectacle. Even the serious-looking commander, watching his subordinates' performances, couldn't help but show a proud smile. Although there were skilled stunt pilots, only these elite pilots could perfectly blend acrobatics with combat. Furthermore, under the intense fire from the mech, not a single aircraft was shot down. The pilots felt quite impressive themselves. It seemed that the mech's attacks were not as effective as they thought. Initially, they had underestimated their opponent and fell victim to a sneak attack. But now that they were serious, the attack seemed less insurmountable. They couldn't say it was underestimating. It was mainly because they didn't know much about him. Now that they understood the opponent's attack patterns, they found ways to counteract. The pilots gained tremendous confidence from successfully dodging again and again. However, gradually, they sensed something was off. Why did the opponent keep attacking? Did he not realize that under their stunts, those beams couldn't harm them? If they couldn't inflict damage, why not give up? Then, they seemed to find the answer. A voice appeared in their communication system. Your stunts are truly dazzling. It's quite an eye-opener. Zhao Kuo, what's going on? Who is this? Wang Feng's voice suddenly rang out. It's Su Qin. He hacked into our communication system. Everyone was taken aback. Immediately after, Su Qin's words made their hearts sink. What did he mean? Was he praising them? Or was he deliberately holding back to watch their stunts? Damn, the last guess was hard for them to accept. No, he definitely wasn't holding back. They were evading his attacks based on skill. Yes, it had to be that way. Just as they firmly believed this, Su Qin's voice echoed again. Comrades, you need to take it a bit more seriously. I'm going to get more serious. Before they could comprehend what he meant, they noticed that the speed of those beams had actually increased. Su Qin had really been holding back. Chapter 47. In the face of a huge power gap, everything is in vain. The frequency of the beams coming in grew faster and faster. The pilots had to push their speed to the limit to evade. However, due to the sudden change, two pilots in J-16s couldn't withstand it and were sent back to base. Facing long-range attacks, their defensive tactics had already eliminated their chances of victory. Now, confronted with the terrifying speed of the beams, if they couldn't cope, it was very likely that this exercise would end within 10 minutes. The pilots were under unprecedented pressure, and a feeling of frustration surged within them. They really wanted to charge forward and confront Su Chen. However, at this moment, the radar could no longer lock onto Su Chen's position, and they were uncertain about where he was, leaving them at the mercy of the situation. This scene fell into Wei Jiantong's eyes, and he realized that the outcome of this drill was already determined. The opposing side was conducting the actual combat with such ease. It felt like a game to them. Out of boredom, they even increased the intensity for their pilots. Of course, it could also be that their pilots previously took advantage of their numbers to bully the fewer opponents, making them appear quite helpless. But regardless, this battle seemed to have no suspense. Just then, he suddenly noticed that the first-generation mecha had appeared in their sight. No, to be precise, the opposing side had actively approached them. At the same time, they had given up on ray attacks. With the cessation of the ray attacks, the pressure on the pilots suddenly decreased. They immediately spotted the mecha flying towards them. This made their previously relaxed nerves tense up again. The long-range ray attacks had already made them defenseless, and now with the mecha approaching, were they preparing to finish them off? At this moment, an uplifting message suddenly came through the headset. According to our detection, the energy fluctuations within the mecha have dropped to only 10% of the initial value. All pilots, seize the opportunity. Everyone was taken aback at first, then filled with joy. Zhao Kuo was extremely excited. Team, our hard work has not been in vain. The opposing side just attacked us and consumed a lot of its energy. It's time for us to perform. This was no easy statement. It was well known that the mecha's energy was abundant, and now only 10% remained. One could imagine what kind of training they had just endured. At that moment, Wang Feng's voice suddenly rang out. Wait, don't you find it strange? Everyone was momentarily stunned. They felt a surge of excitement, unsure of what Wang Feng meant. Wang Feng continued. The opposing side has little energy left, yet they dare to charge into our formation? They can't possibly be conceding defeat, right? Everyone frowned immediately. He was right. What was going on? Zhao Kuo disdainfully said, why worry about that? Before, we could only passively take hits, and we couldn't even see their shadow. Now they dare to rush over to us with insufficient energy. Are we still afraid of them? Team, this opportunity is fleeting. Whether we can redeem ourselves depends on this. After he said that, the pilots no longer overthought it. They only wanted to vent their frustrations. As they saw the opposing mecha getting closer, both sides immediately engaged in confrontation. Su Chen continuously observed the mecha panel. In fact, he had completely entrusted himself, and BT had been conducting the combat according to his thoughts. The artificial intelligence system of the first-generation mecha was incredibly powerful. The pilot only needed to provide ideas. The rest could be entirely left to the mecha. BT, prepare the laser cannon. It's time to unleash the big guy. BT received. To ensure the integrity of the test data, as the exercise was nearing its end, Su Chen decided to activate the laser cannon. What is behind the mecha, resembling a backpack, is the modified laser cannon. Of course, what is being fired is not a real laser cannon, but still a simulated launch. The modified laser cannon has an independent power system, and the remaining energy in the mecha is sufficient for it to maneuver and complete the particle laser cannon's launch test. At the moment of engagement, Su Chen suddenly accelerated. Relying on speed, he maneuvered to the rear of the aircraft. Then, he unleashed the particle laser cannon. Columns of light shot out, not only fast, but also displaying immense power. Under the wide radiation area, any aircraft hit by the light columns had no chance of escape. In a simple maneuver, 5 aircraft were instantly sent back to base. The pilots were bewildered. They hadn't reacted yet before being attacked by the opponent. Furthermore, the system feedback indicated they were destroyed. Another inescapable, devastating attack. They all widened their eyes, feeling it was unbelievable. For a moment, they even thought the system malfunctioned. Wei Jiantong was also shocked, but unlike the pilots, he clearly saw the scene of the mecha attacking. Su Chen had maneuvered at a terrifying speed to the back of the pilots, launching attacks from the laser cannon on his back, which destroyed their own aircraft. The whole action was seamless and fluid. Losing like this was not a shame. Zhao Kongbo couldn't help but exclaim, instantly destroying 5 aircraft. What kind of weapon is that behind the mecha? Why hadn't I seen it before? Could it be the weapon system modified by Su Chen? Having seen the first-generation mecha in person, he was certain that the previous mechas did not have such weapons, since it didn't exist before. It must have been newly manufactured recently. Instantly shooting down 5 aircraft is a truly terrifying weapon. Moreover, it felt like this round of attack was not a one-time event. As long as Su Chen wanted, he could launch several more rounds. Zhao Kongbo became increasingly excited, wishing he could fly up to find Su Chen and ask about the specifics. However, it was clear that Su Chen had no time, and the other pilots were unwilling to give him that chance. Wang Feng had a sharp gaze. His J-20 fighter had narrowly escaped during Su Chen's maneuver, and he was now holding back a breath. He chose not to distance himself, but instead executed a Cobra maneuver, turning the aircraft's nose and chasing after Su Chen, vowing to shoot him down. At the same time, Others also piloted their aircraft to surround Su Chun. The sound of gunfire rang out. A dense barrage formed, aimed at Su Chun. Just as it seemed they were about to hit him, Su Chun executed an extraordinarily complex maneuver in the air in a bizarre way. As the barrage came in, Su Chun leaned back, and the barrage brushed past above his body. If it were on the ground, it could be somewhat plausible. But this is in the air. How could one play like that up here? Wang Feng was left dumbfounded. At that moment, Su Chun, who had evaded the attack, swiftly appeared above Wang Feng's aircraft. He stood over his fighter jet, reached out his hand, and gave him a thumbs up. Wang Feng was completely stunned. Not again? Before he could react, a blinding beam of light flashed past. This beam was enormous. When it shone down on him, Wang Feng and the others felt their hearts drop. They seemed to realize something. Sure enough, when the light beam disappeared, the indicators on the aircraft systems began to flash incessantly. It was like evidence that the Grim Reaper had come. At this moment, no matter how unwilling they were, they had to face the reality. They had been shot down. The flashing indicators meant they had to leave the exercise area and return to base. There was no choice. Although Wang Feng and the others were reluctant, they could only leave with bewildered expressions while piloting their jets. At that moment, they finally understood the feeling of their comrades being hit and leaving the test area. It was utterly bewildering. They were taken away before they even had a chance to react. It felt like a dream. They had participated in countless exercises, but this was the first time they had been shot down so decisively, with no chance to retaliate. A series of fighter jets flew back to the empty base. In the command room, looking at the fewer than a squadron of jets remaining in the sky, Chief Commander Wei Jiantong slumped into his seat. The failure of the exercise seemed to be a foregone conclusion. Although they were prepared, when the moment actually arrived, the commander still found it hard to believe. He began to reflect on their issues in tactical planning, pilot training, and weapon development. After some contemplation, he realized that these were not the problems. The real issue was the mecha created by Su Chun, which was simply too powerful. In the face of such a vast disparity in strength, all tactics were futile. Chapter 48, Deliberate Hit. Attack ineffective. Su Chun continued to pursue the remaining fighter jets. He knew the test was nearing its end, so he pushed the mecha's performance to the limit. The true power of the first-generation mecha was now on full display. Its terrifying maneuverability and agile response made it seem like a Grim Reaper wielding a scythe to harvest lives. Although this was just an exercise, the remaining pilots were still filled with trepidation as they saw Su Chun's mecha charging toward them. If they were taken down, this exercise would end in less than half an hour. The Eastern Theater was set to suffer a humiliating defeat. In past exercises, the fastest had taken at least 2 hours to conclude. Moreover, many times, the Eastern Theater had relied on its strong air combat capabilities to defeat the opponent first. But at this moment, they seemed poised to set a record for the earliest defeat, and it was them who were defeated. This was too embarrassing for the pilots of the Eastern Theater. So now, the remaining pilots had only one belief. That was to delay. They needed to prolong the exercise as much as possible to avoid a too embarrassing loss. However, Su Chun seemed unwilling to give them any opportunity. The mecha unleashed its full power, firing at maximum capacity. The speed reached its limit. In just 2 to 3 seconds, it could easily take down a 5th-generation aircraft. The terrifying combat capability left everyone astonished. It was then they realized the true strength and terror of the first-generation mecha. They also understood that the previous first-generation mecha was not holding back, but rather letting them off easy. If the first-generation mecha had fully unleashed its combat power from the start, this exercise would have ended in no more than 5 minutes. Despair and helplessness spread in the hearts of the pilots, especially for those who had already been shot down. At first, they were somewhat unconvinced, feeling confused about being downed. But at this moment, witnessing the true power demonstrated by the first-generation mecha, they knew that the opponent had still been holding back, giving them face. Otherwise, they would have suffered even more humiliating defeats. The remaining pilots also realized that trying to delay time by fleeing was now meaningless. So, they mustered their last bit of courage and decided to fight Su Chun head-on. The remaining 5 aircraft turned around and launched an attack on Su Chun. The firing buttons of their guns were about to be pressed into oblivion. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. A series of bullets shot towards Su Chun. This could be considered the last struggle of the pilots from the Eastern Theater. Previously, a dozen aircraft firing a barrage of bullets had posed no threat to the first-generation mecha. Now, the bullets fired by the 5 aircraft could not even form an effective barrage. Their power was even weaker. So, it could only be described as their final struggle. Everyone realized this. However, what happened next left them all dumbfounded. They didn't know if it was a system malfunction or something else. But they found that the first-generation mecha was actually frozen in place, waiting for those simulated rounds to bombard it. It should be noted that the 5th-generation aircraft were equipped with not only high-explosive rounds, but also armor-piercing shells. These could play a significant role in both close-range aerial combat and ground attacks. The power was undeniably substantial. Just like that, the first-generation mecha was locked onto by the 5 aircraft and took a full round of fire. This scene stunned everyone present. The downed pilots clenched their fists, excitement flashing in their eyes. Wei Jiantong also stood up in disbelief. He had originally thought the battle was a foregone conclusion, but now there was a twist. The brief moment of stillness from the first-generation mecha had resulted in it absorbing hundreds of high-explosive and armor-piercing rounds. Even a tank would have turned into a pile of rubble. What was going on? Why had the mecha stopped? Was it a malfunction? There must be an issue. After all, this was built by a student in just 2 months, so there would definitely be some problems. Did that mean we won this exercise? Everyone was waiting to cheer. Even the pilots in the air couldn't contain their excitement. However, what they didn't expect was for the system to inform them that the previous attack was ineffective. This completely left them stunned. Damn it, is this cheating? When they attack themselves, it's effective. Just a casual brush from a laser sends them back to base. After finally seizing the opportunity to hit the mech, they find that the attack from Tom is ineffective. What is going on? The commander Wei Jiantong also has many opinions at this moment. I'm the commander. Are you performing this in front of me? He immediately contacted the technical control room for the exercise. The reply he received was shocking. After calculations, the recent round of concentrated fire could not cause effective damage to the mech. This response stunned everyone for an entire year. The pilots returning to base seemed unable to accept this fact. No way. This can't be real. They actually say it couldn't cause damage? Is this armor really that tough? If a 5th-generation fighter had taken that round of fire, it would have been blown to bits. After finally catching a break, you tell me the attack was ineffective. There must be some kind of cover-up. I demand a real battle with live ammunition. Zhao Konghua, however, remained calm, as if he had seen through everything. Don't be agitated. This is an exercise for you, but for them, it's a real combat test. Testing the mech's various capabilities through actual combat. If I'm not mistaken, Su Chun was consciously testing the mech's defensive capabilities just now. It wasn't a malfunction. Upon hearing this, everyone was stunned. So it's not a malfunction, but intentional. It's precisely because they have confidence that they are not worried about being concentrated fire and shot down. Zhao Konghua continued, saying, from the beginning, I have been observing Su Chen's actions. He has been consciously testing various capabilities of the mech. And based on my understanding of this mech, the capabilities he needed to test have almost all been completed. This defensive capability can be said to be the last one. Hearing this, everyone fell silent for 2 seconds. Then suddenly looked up at the sky. At the same time, they raised their questions. If the last test is over, then what awaits them? Naturally, it would be the end of this exercise. Su Chen glanced at the impact data on the control panel, all within the mech's tolerance. Zhao Konghua was right. Su Chen was indeed testing the mech's impact capacity. As for the risk of being shot down, he didn't care about the victory or defeat of this exercise. Compared to winning or losing, he was more concerned about the quality of the mech. Now that the tests were completed and all data collected, Su Chen began to conclude this exercise. In this spacious and somewhat solemn command room, everyone held their breath, watching as the Grim Reaper began to reap. Their gazes were magnetically drawn to the huge screen above. Su Chen was about to conclude the exercise. On the screen, the light spots representing the aircraft in the Eastern Theater began to disappear one after another, like the quiet fall of brilliant stars in the night sky. The disappearance of the light spots made no sound, yet it stirred up waves in everyone's hearts. At this moment, time seemed to stretch infinitely, and the air in the command room felt as heavy as lead. In just a fleeting moment, the once proud fleet of aircraft in the Eastern Theater was mercilessly destroyed. These aircraft were the pride of the Eastern Theater, the Steel Eagles defending the nation's airspace. Each aircraft embodied the wisdom and hard work of countless researchers, and each pilot was an elite among elites, rigorously selected and trained. However, in this exercise, despite being outnumbered, they still had no means to fight back. This stark contrast greatly impacted everyone's psyche. When the last light point disappeared, the entire screen turned dark, signaling the end of the exercise. The personnel in the Eastern Theater had extremely complex expressions. They looked up at the sky, where the prototype mechs hovered like deities, coldly gazing down upon the world. At this moment, it felt as if an era was shifting. The guardians of the sky were changing hands. Chapter 49, Exercise concluded. Display of particle laser cannons. This exercise lasted a total of 27 minutes and 3 seconds. All 36 aircraft of the Eastern Theater were shot down. Naturally, this exercise also set the record for the shortest conclusion. Moreover, it was evident that the prototype mechs had clearly held back. If they had wished, they could have ended the exercise in 5 minutes without difficulty. Watching the pride of the Air Force, the 5th-generation fighters being taken down so easily, the senior generals on stage couldn't help but feel a sense of regret. It seems that an era is truly about to change. The age of mechs is coming. Tactical strategies will need to adapt, and it remains to be seen whether we old-timers can keep up with the times. The combat capability of these mechs is simply terrifying. It feels like a single mech could annihilate an entire legion, and in the future, sheer numbers might not even matter. At this moment, all the pilots returned to the base. Wei Jiantong looked at the bitter expressions of his elite team and chose not to comfort them. A little toughening of their character wouldn't hurt. Although these pilots had reasons to be proud, they now stood at a crossroads of an era, and pride would only become an obstacle. After this test, they deeply realized the significant technological gap between the two sides. Faced with Su Chen's advanced mechs, the aircraft of the Eastern Theater seemed like ancient weapons, powerless against modern warfare machines. The opponents had no capacity to resist. Their attacks against the mech's powerful defenses and firepower were like child's play, utterly ineffective. This technological disparity brought unprecedented pressure and challenges to everyone. In this silence, Su Chen returned safely. His mech landed steadily on the ground, producing a dull sound. This sound, like a signal, shattered the silence in the command room. Everyone snapped back to reality, feeling a surge of complex emotions. They were in awe of the mech's power while also feeling a sense of loss over their own defeat. They approached the mecha, and Lu Qingji, along with the members of the research team, brought various precision instruments to check the condition of the mecha and simultaneously confirm the collected data. You've worked hard, Lu Qingji said as he walked over to Su Chun. Su Chun replied, it's not hard at all. Lu Qingji smiled and said, I wasn't saying it was hard for you. I was saying it for them. Lu Qingji turned to the pilots walking towards them. Thank you for your hard work. Your cooperation in this exercise allows us to comprehensively assess the mecha's performance. It really has been tough. Both physically and mentally, these pilots felt exceptionally exhausted, as if they had fought a hard battle. Then, Lu Qingji noticed Wei Jiantong and introduced him to Su Chun as the overall commander of the exercise. Wei Jiantong smiled wryly, seeing Su Chun's young face and recalling his impressive performance earlier. He couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. Heroes emerge from youth. Truly a pillar of the nation. The others were taken aback by this comment, especially the pilots from the Eastern Theater Command. They knew that Wei Jiantong was usually serious and rarely praised others. Just not getting scolded during training was already a win. Yet, at this moment, he gave Su Chun such a high praise, likening him to a national pillar, which was quite surprising. Of course, they also understood that Su Chun deserved such recognition. If he wanted to, he could easily destroy their air force. Calling him a pillar of the nation was no exaggeration. Su Chun thanked him for the compliment and glanced over the pilots, his eyes landing on a beautiful female pilot who seemed to have red eyes, as if she had been crying. Su Chun was taken aback, wondering who could be so mean to make such a lovely pilot cry. Could it be Commander Wei? Perhaps they were scolded for their devastating defeat. Just as this thought crossed his mind, the girl shot him a resentful look. At that moment, Su Chun realized, wasn't she the pilot who had been upset because of him? He had used the thrust from the mecha's rocket launch system to counteract the thrust of her fifth-generation fighter, leaving her aircraft suspended in midair, which had made her cry. He hadn't recognized her because she had been wearing a helmet at the time. Now, seeing her expression was just like before, he finally connected the dots. Oh no, I almost made a fool of myself. He awkwardly smiled and quickly shifted his gaze back to the other pilots. I believe you all have many questions for me, right? Don't hesitate to ask. I'd love to communicate with you. In fact, the pilots indeed had many questions in their minds. Seeing that Su Chun was not acting like a distant victor, but rather was very approachable, both Wei Jiantong and Lu Qingji nodded in agreement. Wang Feng was the first to ask a question. He couldn't wait any longer. Even if he didn't ask now, he would find a way to inquire with Su Chun later. Su Chun, do you remember how you shot me down? I only saw a flash of light before being hit. Also, no matter how powerful your mech is, how could it have such abundant energy? Clearly, your energy was almost depleted before, and yet just a few minutes later, it was fully charged again. Wang Feng fired off several questions at once. Of course, the most puzzling thing for them was the energy system of the mech. They even briefly thought that the other side had deployed 2 mechs. At this moment, Wei Jiantong also said, I'm actually quite confused too. Is there some hidden energy source behind the mech you developed? Seeing that everyone was curious about this question, Su Chun calmly smiled and replied, there is indeed a hidden energy source, but it wasn't used at that time. I also wanted to test the first-generation mech's ability to switch energy sources and sustain long-term combat. So, I returned to the base to change the energy after it was exhausted. Upon hearing this, everyone present was stunned. Wang Feng couldn't hold back any longer, so, you changed the energy in just a few minutes? Everyone's eyes were fixed on Su Chun, making him feel a bit shy. To be precise, it took 30 seconds. This was said not by Su Chun, but by Chun Xiangyang, the head of the individual combat weapon research team. He had been closely monitoring various data of the mech, including the time taken to switch energy sources. The people from the Eastern Theater couldn't help but gasp. No wonder the mech's energy could be replenished so quickly. It turned out it only took 30 seconds. That was incredibly fast. The ability for sustained combat was simply astonishing. What about that beam? Wang Feng pressed on. The other pilots who had been shot down by the slight beam of light also had similar questions. Your mech's defensive capabilities are terrifying enough. But is the weapon system also that astonishing? I was clearly just grazed by the beam, and the simulation system indicated that I was destroyed. The power is too great. Su Chun knew they were referring to the particle laser cannon that had been installed on the mech after modifications. At this moment, Zhao Kongguo from the crowd also spoke up. Su Chun, my young friend, have you developed something new again? How come I didn't know that the mech had such a powerful weapon system? Why don't you demonstrate it for us? Su Chun agreed, but Lu Qingji said, it might be difficult to demonstrate at the base. Wei Jiantong added, then let's go to our shooting range. Lu Qingji chuckled, I'm afraid your shooting range won't work either. Everyone was taken aback. Why not? Our shooting range is quite large. Lu Qingji sighed with a wry smile. You don't understand the power of the particle laser cannon. I've seen it with my own eyes, so I know its capabilities. You won't have enough space at your shooting range. It's better to go directly to the test flight area. Everyone was somewhat surprised. Just how powerful was it that it couldn't be demonstrated at the shooting range? However, this only fueled their curiosity even more. They arrived at the test flight area. The test flight area of the Eastern Theater is an expanse of open fields, interspersed with 1 or 2 gently rolling hills, creating a stunning landscape. Su Chun looked at Lu Qingji and asked, Chief, are you sure you want to demonstrate here? Lu Qingji also didn't want the beautiful scenery before them to turn into a wasteland like their base's test flight zone. He turned to Wei Jiantong and suggested, "How about we choose another location?" Wei Jiantong felt it would be too troublesome and said, "It's fine, you can demonstrate as you wish. If anything goes wrong, I'll take responsibility." Lu Qingji replied, "You said you'd be responsible." He then looked at Su Chun and pointed to the distant hill, saying, "Just aim for that peak." As soon as he said this, everyone was left in disbelief. It wasn't he that they thought it was impossible, but the distance between them and that hill was several dozen kilometers. Could they really hit it? Before they could voice their doubts, Su Chun had already prepared. So, amidst their astonished gazes, the particle laser cannon emitted a dazzling white light. Everyone slightly opened their mouths. Even though they were some distance away from the mecha, they instinctively took half a step back. Then they saw the white light rushing toward the target with great momentum. Chapter 50. One Strength, Crushing an Era. The brilliant light cut through the sky, as if a divine sword descended from the heavens. This was the moment the particle laser cannon fired. With powerful energy gathering at the muzzle, the brightness so intense that it was impossible to look directly at it. This light, carrying the force to annihilate everything, sped toward the hill several dozen kilometers away in the blink of an eye. As the laser beam traversed the air, the surrounding space appeared to warp. The air instantaneously heated to extreme temperatures, creating a visible heat wave. Wherever it passed, vegetation was scorched and rocks melted. The distance of several dozen kilometers seemed like just a stone's throw in the face of the particle laser cannon's attack. The massive hill appeared so small and fragile before the laser beam. At the moment the laser beam struck the hill, time seemed to freeze. A blinding flash of light momentarily blinded everyone, followed by a deafening roar, as if the bells of doom were ringing. A powerful shockwave radiated outward from the hill, compressing the surrounding air before releasing it with overwhelming force. Wherever this shockwave went, everything was utterly destroyed. Trees were uprooted, boulders were flung into the air, and the hill cracked open as if cleaved by a giant's axe. The colossal sounds of the collapsing mountain echoed through the skies, even several dozen kilometers away. They felt the ground shake. In an instant, the hill shattered before their eyes. The scene before them resembled the apocalypse, leaving them too stunned to even breathe. It was then that they realized how ridiculous their previous doubts had been. What was this about being grazed by the beam and receiving a system prompt of being destroyed? Such a terrifying weapon didn't even need to touch them. Even the energy released from the rapidly compressed air would be enough to tear them apart. Due to the nature of the test, the simulation launch system can only detect when a target is hit. So the mecha's attacks can only be deemed successful if they land on the aircraft. In fact, hitting the target isn't even necessary. Sometimes, a silent pause can express their shock more effectively than a flood of words. After quite some time, they finally regained their composure. Looking at the destroyed hill in the distance, Wei Jiantong said to his deputy, "Report to the highest commander of the Eastern Theater. Just say that a test weapon accidentally destroyed a mountain. They should understand, right?" Wei Jiantong felt overwhelmed. He had guessed that the particle laser cannon was powerful, but he didn't expect it to be this devastating. He couldn't help but wipe the fine beads of sweat from his forehead. At the same time, Director Zhao Kongbo was equally excited. "Young friend Su Chun, when did you create this?" Su Chun replied, "Just a few days ago. It took me nearly a month." Su Chun felt that the time was a bit long, especially since he still needed to create the interdimensional mecha. But in order to enhance the combat capability of the first-generation mecha, he had to build it. Hearing that Su Chun had created such a terrifying weapon in just a month, everyone present was almost petrified on the spot. They thought Su Chun was joking, but then remembered that he had built the mecha in just 2 months. It seemed plausible that he could create a terrifying weapon in a month. Zhao Kongbo worked hard to calm his excitement and thought of a question. "Young friend Su Chun, this particle laser cannon is so powerful. It must consume a lot of energy, right? How long can it sustain combat?" After modifications, the particle laser cannon's sustained combat time is indeed impressive. It has an independent energy system, can connect to the high-energy solid-state power source of the mecha, and can also draw power from solar energy. It can sustain combat for at least half a month. Upon hearing this answer, the pilots felt as if they had been struck by lightning. The power of this laser cannon is already astonishing, and its sustained combat time is just as incredible. To put it in perspective, the 5th-generation aircraft can only sustain combat for a few hours to a dozen hours, and this one can last for half a month. The sustained combat time is several times that of the advanced fighter jet. At this point, Wang Feng and the others were completely convinced. They deeply realized that their mecha was indeed from a different era than Su Chen's. Just then, the female pilot who had been upset suddenly asked, "How did you make my aircraft hover in midair?" As soon as she spoke, everyone recalled the scene when Su Chun made the aircraft float effortlessly in the air. At that time, everyone was sweating for the female pilot. If there had been a mistake, it could have been dangerous. No wonder she was scared to tears. It was just a drill, but it felt like life and death. Isn't that bullying? Su Chun also knew that he had gone a bit overboard at that time. While explaining, he demonstrated the rocket propulsion system equipped on the mecha to the soldiers. The mecha is equipped with a powerful rocket propulsion system, generating force that counteracts the thrust of 5th-generation fighters. This allows the aircraft to hover in the air. At this moment, Zhao Kongbo spoke up, "But how do you control that force? How do you know the thrust of the opponent? And how much reverse thrust should be used to counter it? Is it all based on intuition?" Everyone nodded. If it really depended on intuition, that would be extremely dangerous. Intuition is the least reliable thing. Su Chen also knew that intuition was not reliable. Of course not. Throughout the entire process, the system has been performing rigorous calculations. Zhao Konghua was enlightened, but the others were puzzled. Who is the system? The female pilot voiced everyone's question. At the same time, a mechanical synthesized voice sounded. Hello, ma'am. I apologize for startling you. I am the system, the artificial intelligence of this mecha. I operated the entire exercise process to test the mecha's intelligence system. This voice was emitted by the mecha's artificial intelligence system. Everyone was stunned again. If it was operated by the system, it surely would be more precise than human operation. Achieving the hover through calculations was not impossible. But then, the pilots suddenly thought of something. Their pupils dilated. Wang Feng couldn't help but ask, you mean the entire exercise was operated by the AI system? That's right. Dear Wang Feng, we meet again. Wang Feng was taken aback. You actually remember me. He quickly realized and shouted. No, that's not the point. The point is, we actually lost to an artificial intelligence? Yes, this was what these pilots found hard to accept. If they lost to Su Chen and his team, they would have accepted it. But losing to an artificial intelligence made them feel indignant. Zhao Konghua smiled. What's there to be unwilling about? The artificial intelligence you think of is merely a student, sorry. The actual artificial intelligence is one that matches your IQ, with computational power equivalent to 10 supercomputers, and is equipped with high-tech technology. Losing to it is only natural. Winning against it would be a miracle. No one expected Zhao Konghua to hold such a high opinion of the mecha's artificial intelligence system. Everyone looked at Su Chen's mecha in disbelief. They were itching to try it out themselves. At this moment, Wei Jiantong looked at Su Chen and thought about his current rank of colonel, feeling relieved. The news of Su Chen being promoted to colonel within a short period of enlistment had caused a huge stir among the higher-ups. Initially, Wei Jiantong had his doubts. But now, he knew Su Chen was well-deserved. Not only for the powerful performance of the mecha, but also for the significant breakthrough in artificial intelligence. If he wasn't a colonel, who else would be? In fact, Wei Jiantong even felt that being a colonel was an understatement. After all, he had single-handedly crushed a man from the era of fighters. At the very least, he should be a major general. Chapter 51. Not a senior, are you serious? Su Chen, can I try this mech? The female pilot gently tucked her bangs and shyly spoke. Just as Su Chen was about to respond, he suddenly sensed a hint of hostility. He turned his head slightly and found his senior glaring at him fiercely. It seemed that if he dared to agree, he would be in trouble in the next moment. The corner of his mouth involuntarily twitched as he said, because of safety concerns. This mech can only be piloted by me for now. Others cannot use it. Upon hearing this, the eager pilots couldn't help but sigh. The female pilot also reluctantly gave up. Su Chen took another covert glance at his senior and noticed that her face had once again donned a harmless expression. What was going on with her? He couldn't figure it out. Right, since the mech was developed by us, it must have complete technology. When can we produce a batch of mechs and equip the troops? Wei Jiantong asked. The responsibility for producing the mechs was assigned to the Individual Combat Equipment Research Institute. The head, Chen Xiangyang, said, we are already working on manufacturing the production line. I believe we will soon be able to produce a batch of mechs. Hearing this, Wei Jiantong nodded, looking forward to it. However, those elite pilots felt greatly disheartened. Someone muttered, when the mechs are equipped in the troops, it will be the day we pilots retire. After all, the combat power of the mechs was evident. One mech's combat capability could easily handle dozens of advanced 5th-generation fighters. Even the most advanced 5th-generation fighters would not stand a chance against the terrifying strength of the mechs. What their aircraft could achieve, the mechs could do as well. And what their aircraft could not do, the mechs could also accomplish. Naturally, there seemed to be no need for their existence. Wei Jiantong wanted to encourage them, but given the current situation, they really seemed to be on the brink of retirement. Of course, the most affected was Dean Zhao Konghua. They had invested countless efforts to develop the 5th-generation fighters, only to see them retired so quickly, which meant that their previous efforts might go to waste. Thinking of decades of hard work being eclipsed by Su Chen's 2-month achievement, Zhao Konghua felt like he wanted to retire entirely. However, this also indirectly indicated that the country had acquired an even more powerful national defense tool. It was indeed a bittersweet feeling. Su Chen also sensed the helplessness and melancholy in everyone's hearts. He moved his lips and smiled, saying, rather than retirement, it's more like stepping into a broader realm. Everyone was taken aback by his words, not understanding what he meant. Su Chen looked up at the sky, his gaze profound. In the future, mechs will further upgrade. You outstanding pilots will not retire. Instead, you will transition from aviation to aerospace. Upon hearing his words, everyone's expressions suddenly changed. But they could sense that he was filled with novel ideas about the future of mechs. Everyone couldn't help but feel hopeful. Zhao Konghua asked, Su Chen, do you mean to develop the mechs towards aerospace? Su Chen temporarily had no intention of revealing his thoughts on the new mecha. He calmly said, at least it will be stronger than the current one. Everyone was momentarily taken aback. The current mecha was already impressive. What could be even more formidable? If someone else had said this, they might not have reacted at all or thought the person was joking. But who said this was Su Chen? The anticipation in everyone's hearts grew stronger. They were very curious about the surprises Su Chen would bring them in the future. As the drill concluded, Wei Jiantong also left with his pilots. Before leaving, a female pilot specifically approached Su Chen. She took out her phone and said, Comrade Su Chen, Can we exchange contact information? I have many questions that are not convenient to ask in person. Can we chat on WeChat? After saying this, she added, it's about the mecha. Su-chun had no objections. After all, it was a beautiful female pilot, so exchanging contact information seemed fine. After they added each other, the female pilot, named Sun Pingping, suddenly asked, Comrade Su-chun, I heard you're still a student, and you're handsome and talented. You must be very popular with the girls at school. You must have a girlfriend, right? It seemed she had mustered a lot of courage to say this. After finishing, Sun Pingping's pretty face instantly turned red. Su-chun was about to say that he was just an engineering student without any girlfriend, but before he could speak, a woman's voice suddenly came from behind. Xiao-chun, when are we going back to my parents' place? School is starting soon. Shouldn't we visit my parents before heading back? Zhao Daru walked over. Upon seeing Sun Pingping, she acted as if she had just noticed her. Sister Sun, hello? I heard you are the only female pilot in the Eastern Theater. You are truly a role model for us women. As she spoke, she casually patted Su-chun's shoulder and skillfully linked her arm with his. Su-chun, I heard you made Sister Sun cry during the drill. I'm sorry, Sister Sun. I apologize on behalf of our Su-chun. It's all my fault for not training him well as his girlfriend. Sun Pingping was taken aback, looking at the girl in front of her, who was several times more beautiful than herself. As someone who always considered herself exceptional, she couldn't help but feel a sense of inferiority, especially upon hearing that this girl was Su-chun's girlfriend. She inexplicably felt a nervousness akin to that of a mistress caught by the legitimate partner. Sun Pingping hastily found an excuse and left in a hurry. Watching her retreating figure, Su-chun quickly reached out, as if to keep her from leaving. He hesitated, ultimately not saying a word. He turned to Zhao Daru, hoping she would explain. Wasn't the game of pretending to be his girlfriend supposed to be over? What was this situation? Yet, the senior didn't give him a chance to speak. She tossed her hair and walked away. Of course, before leaving, she couldn't help but pinch Su-chun's waist. Su-chun grimaced in pain. You crazy woman, why did you pinch me too? Ouch, that hurts so much. I'm going to ask the commander to replace you. Of course, replacement was out of the question. He still had to go home and say goodbye to his parents. After the exercise ended, Su-chun gathered various data with a group of experts. A series of unbelievable data was recorded in the log. At the same time, this data was classified as the highest secret of the nation. Naturally, even if it were leaked, no one would probably believe it. After that, he prepared to say goodbye to his parents and returned to school. His sister returned to school a step ahead and didn't have time to say goodbye. At the door, Zhao Daru linked her arm with Su-chun's and said goodbye to the elderly couple. People coming and going in the neighborhood were stunned by Zhao Daru's stunning looks, especially realizing she was Su-chun's girlfriend. They all gave a thumbs up to Su's father, praising him for having such a capable son. Su's father couldn't help but feel a bit anxious. He thought to himself, although his son was a defense student, the girl was also quite impressive. Could the two really end up together in the future? Just as this thought crossed his mind, Zhao Daru suddenly spoke up. Uncle and auntie, Su-chun is so excellent. What if one day he doesn't want me anymore? Hearing this, the elderly couple was taken aback. Su's father immediately responded, You brat. Such an outstanding girl like Xiao would dare to abandon you? If he dares to not want you, I'll break his legs. The mother added, Don't worry, Xiao. If he bullies you, just tell me. Annie will stand up for you. Zhao Daru felt relieved. Thank you, uncle and auntie. Then auntie, let us exchange contact information. You don't know, the day before yesterday a girl added Su-chun on WeChat, and he didn't know how to refuse. I was so scared. Su's mother was furious. Su's father rolled up his sleeves, ready to take action. Su-chun stepped back in shock, looking at Zhao Daru's seemingly innocent expression. Lost in thought, isn't she a senior? What is going on? Aren't we pretending to be a couple? Are you serious? Chapter 52. The terrifying project worth $200 billion. In the return vehicle, sunlight poured in through the windows like a golden veil, adding a warm and serene atmosphere to the space. Lu Qingji sat in the car waiting for Su-chun and the others. This general of the empire usually had a serious demeanor, but at this moment, he couldn't hide his excitement and joy. His eyes were bright and fervent, as if he had just witnessed a great event capable of changing the fate of a nation. Once Su-chun got into the car, it slowly started moving. Lu Qingji slightly turned his body, unable to wait to chat with Su-chun. His tone was filled with excitement and emotion. Su-chun, thanks to you taking this exercise seriously, you presented us with a grand performance. The scenes that unfolded still make people's blood boil even now, especially seeing our commander and his pilots face challenges. You may not know that the Air Force units of the Eastern Theater have an impressive track record, essentially undefeated. However, they have suffered a significant setback against the mechas. Winning so convincingly took me by surprise. Lu Qingji grinned. He seemed pleased to see the Eastern Theater personnel facing difficulties. Su-chun listened quietly, a slight smile playing on his lips. His gaze was deep and calm, like a tranquil lake. He slightly turned his head to look out at the fleeting scenery, reminiscing about the events that unfolded during the exercises. The Air Force of the Eastern Theater is indeed powerful. Despite knowing very little about my mechas, they managed to respond calmly and execute their tactics to the fullest, which is already commendable. Unfortunately, the gap between the two is substantial. In the face of absolute strength, all tactics appear weak and ineffective. Su-chun spoke in a calm tone. This was indeed the truth. The Air Force of the Eastern Theater was able to adapt their strategies continuously during the confrontation with the mechas and seize every opportunity, but the gap remained. one that even their strength could not bridge. Times have indeed changed. However, this time is different. In the past, they were always trying to catch up with the times. But this time they hold the initiative. Although they may have developed formidable mechas, they have also kept pace with the trends and possess mechas that can stand up to scrutiny. And all of this is thanks to a young man. No one saw this coming. Lu Qingji nodded, suddenly recalling something, and his tone became serious. Su-Chen, there's one more thing. What you mentioned earlier at the base about our pilots transitioning from aviation to aerospace. How true is that? I feel like you might have some grand idea you're hiding from us. Lu Qingji referred to Su-Chen's thoughts as a grand idea, which made Zhao Dara laugh out loud. Her smile was radiant as she looked at Su-Chen, her eyes filled with a gentle light. Su-Chen shrugged. It's not really a grand idea. It's just a project I thought of after deep reflection on the first-generation mechas. Lu Qingji, as a representative of the higher-ups, immediately said, since it's a project, it definitely requires funding. Just tell me, how much do you need? Zhao Dara was taken aback. Without even asking what the project was, they were directly inquiring about the funding needed. Is it that as long as the required funding is reasonable, the country would invest in whatever project Su-Chen proposes? That seems a bit too indulgent towards Su-Chen. Su-Chen thought for a moment and held up 2 fingers. This project might require 200 billion. As soon as he said this, the entire vehicle fell silent. Even the driver, Professor Ma Jiqiang, couldn't help but ask, Kid, why do you need so much funding? Are you planning to build a nuclear bomb? Keep in mind that the entire national defense research funding is only about 100 billion annually, and that's in local currency. Yet Su-Chen is asking for 200 billion in foreign currency. Converted, that's over 1 trillion, equivalent to the annual GDP of certain provinces. Lu Qingji was also taken aback by Su-Chen's bold proposal. He was almost stuttering while speaking. Su-Chen, are you joking? 200 billion? This is definitely not a small amount for our country. What exactly do you want to do? Su-Chen did not directly explain, but took out a document bag from his backpack and handed a file to Lu Qingji. I happen to have this document. Please, sir, help apply for approval from the higher-ups. Lu Qingji, still a bit dazed, took the file and was even more confused when he saw the name on it. The document clearly stated a new term, Next Generation Panspace Mech. This was a research application for the next generation of panspace mechs. Lu Qingji slowly raised his head, looking at Su-Chen in disbelief, his mind buzzing as if struck by thunder. Su-Chen was actually preparing to develop a new generation of panspace mechs. Was there really no limit to Su-Chen's research capabilities? In just over 3 months, he had already created a mech and a terrifying particle laser cannon. Now he was going to develop a new mech. Lu Qingji suddenly remembered that the research cost for the first-generation mech was only a few $100,000. The manufacturing cost of each technology was very low. Why was this time so much? 200 billion? How terrifying could this mech be? Most importantly, the first-generation mech was already very powerful. Was Su-Chen not satisfied? Lu Qingji couldn't help but say, but Su-Chen, don't we already have a very powerful mech? Do we really need to invest so much more to develop a new one? Su-Chen looked up at the sky, his gaze becoming profound. The first-generation mech is indeed strong. It can crush even the most powerful 5th-generation mechs. But just being able to crush 5th-generation mechs is not enough. We need to dominate an entire era. Especially, we must strike at the opponent from a higher dimension. Lu Qingji was stunned by Su-Chen's words. Su-Chen actually wanted to dominate an era. If someone else had said this, Lu Qingji might have dismissed it as the arrogant talk of a young person. But it was Su-Chen who said it. The one who had once personally developed aircraft that dominated an era. This time, he not only wanted to crush the aircraft of an era, but to comprehensively dominate this era. Zhao Dara was also shocked. Watching Su-Chen, who usually seemed carefree, reveal such ambitions. Dr. Ma Jiqiang, while driving, leaned in to listen to their conversation, feeling quite moved inside. Being able to be Su-Chen's teacher and facilitating his path into mech manufacturing made him very proud. Lu Qingji came back to his senses and seemed to have thought of something. So, this panspace mech is Su-Chen explained. It can be understood as a space mech. A space mech? You actually want to build a space mech? Lu Qingji trembled all over, as if an electric current had flowed through him. At that moment, he understood what Su-Chen meant by wanting the Air Force to transition from aviation to aerospace. He also grasped the meaning of overwhelming an era and striking the enemy from a higher dimension. Su-Chen was actually planning to develop space mechs. Mechs capable of combat in space. It was hard to believe, considering they hadn't even succeeded in manned moon landings yet. Su-Chen was already preparing to create mechs that could operate in space. Just the thought that their mechs could one day freely traverse the universe and plant flags on various planets made Lu Qingji tremble with excitement. Zhao Dara suddenly said, does that mean we could farm on the moon then? It seemed that the rabbit had an almost obsessive dedication to farming. Su-Chen nodded. If we can build space mechs, there will be many conditions met for establishing bases in space. This could actually promote the development of interstellar colonization. Hearing that one day they could farm on the moon, Lu Qingji suddenly slapped his thigh. We must invest in this project. The sooner, the better. He patted his chest and assured, don't worry, Su-Chen, I'll find a way to get the project funding approved. It's just $200 billion, right? If we can build mechs in the future and farm on the moon, forget just 200 billion. Adding a zero wouldn't be out of the question. Chapter 53. Overwhelming an era from all angles. In a conference room in the nation, Zhou Jingtian sat at the head of the table, calmly waiting for the high-ranking officials participating in the meeting to arrive. Due to the involvement of the nation's highest military secrets, all attendees were the top figures in the country. As the highest commander of the North China War Zone and the one who proposed this meeting, he was in charge of hosting it. However, the actual speaker was Liu Qingji. As a major general, he technically shouldn't have had the qualifications to participate in such a high-level meeting. Once everyone was seated, Liu Qingji personally copied several copies of the proposal document for the development of General Space Mech drafted by Su Chun and distributed them to the attendees. The high-ranking officials were quite familiar with the name Su Chun, especially since just a few days ago, news of Su Chun piloting his developed mech to defeat 36 elite fighter jets from the Eastern Air Force had left a deep impression on them. Therefore, upon learning that the document was drafted by Su Chun, they picked it up and began to read it carefully, wondering what surprise this young comrade might have prepared for them. However, after reading for a while, they were instantly dumbfounded. They hadn't found a surprise yet. Instead, they were shocked. $200 billion? What project requires $200 billion? Our region's GDP for a whole year is only 200 billion RMB. This is equivalent to 6 or 7 years of our GDP. One high-ranking official couldn't hold back. Others were similarly astonished, all frowning with confusion. At that moment, someone took a closer look at the research application document. It was once again about the development of mechs. We now possess powerful mechs, and the production line for them is already under construction. Is it really necessary to spend so much money on the research and development of new mechs? This statement was made by Qian Zhong, the head of the finance department of the nation. The entire financial authority of the nation is in his hands, making his opinion very important. His thoughts align with Liu Qingji's previous stance, believing that the nation already has strong mechs and does not need to invest more funds in the development of new ones. After all, the research and development costs are so terrifying that they could rival the annual military expenditure of the nation. With so much money dedicated to developing a single mech, the success of the project and the time it would take are uncertain, which they feel is quite risky. Although Su Chin's reputation has gradually taken shape in their minds, they still think it is too crazy. Everyone's gaze fell on Zhou Jingtong, who subtly looked at Liu Qingji, signaling him with a glance. Liu Qingji nodded and slowly stood up under the watchful eyes of the prominent figures. When Su Chun first proposed this project to me, my thoughts were the same as yours. I felt that the investment was too large, significantly so, not just a little. However, I was eventually persuaded by him. He walked to a large screen, inserted a USB drive, and opened an image. It was a concept art of a mech. Liu Qingji's voice rang out again. As you can see, this is a concept drawing of a space mech, and it originates from a certain country. The term space mech and that country lingered in the minds of the prominent figures, making their expressions increasingly serious. They were all busy at their respective positions and did not have much understanding of this matter. The finance department head asked, "Are you implying that research on space mechs is underway in that country?" Liu Qingji replied, "They may be researching it, or they may have already completed their research. In the game of great powers, what is revealed is merely the tip of the iceberg that they wish for you to see. As for what lies beneath the surface, no one knows." His words caused some anxiety among the senior officials present. The finance department's upper management was not aware of this information, but those from the military were quite familiar. Many of them had also participated in this meeting. Indeed, we have also heard that research on space mechs is ongoing in that country. However, despite our efforts to gather intelligence, we have only obtained this concept drawing of the space mech. As for whether they have developed it, we are not sure, said a senior military officer. Liu Qingji nodded and continued. Precisely because we are uncertain, we do not dare to take risks. If that country has truly developed space mechs, it would be a devastating blow to our mechs. Not only that, but we may also lose the initiative in exploring interstellar colonies. When that country's flag is planted across the stars, we would only be left watching helplessly. This is secondary. Our nuclear weapons cannot reach their mechs in space. At that point, wouldn't we be in a situation similar to that of the Qing dynasty over a century ago? Comrades, falling behind means being beaten. Do you still want to be beaten by them again? What about us, the younger generation? Are you willing to let them be bullied again? Liu Qingji's words left everyone present in silence. Even the voices of dissent from before had vanished. After a long pause, Zhou Jingtian pointed at the document and said, "So, this panspatial mecha is..." Liu Qingji interjected, "It's our space mecha." Everyone was taken aback. They now fully understood what Su Chun was planning. This was preparing to build a space mecha. This was gearing up to confront the opposing forces in national defense. Zhou Jingtian suddenly felt emotional. "Comrades, I know some of you personally witnessed that exercise, and I watched the video afterwards. It was impressive, truly impressive. Su Chen's abilities are beyond doubt. Logically speaking, such a significant project that benefits the country and the people should have been proposed by us. Instead, we let them bring it up first, making it seem like we are just sitting idly by. Now that they have proposed it, we can't be overly concerned about the financial aspect, can we?" The head of the finance department seemed overly cautious. The main issue is that this is not a small sum. It could significantly affect future national development plans. Zhou Jingtian was displeased. Without national defense, how can the country develop? Do we have to wait until the opposing forces' space mecha is pointed at our heads before we consider developing our own? As he spoke, he turned and pointed at the screen. They already have concept designs out. Yet here we are, tangled up in project approvals. He added, "I won't say much more. Think carefully. Is it better to invest a bit for national defense, or to cling to that little money and become subservient? The head of the finance department was left speechless by Zhou Jingtian's rebuttal, feeling a surge of irritation. Lu Qingji noticed the tension in the room and quickly added, "Gentlemen, don't rush. According to Su Chun, our current investment will yield returns that extend beyond just national defense. Just think, once we have the space mecha, we can explore interstellar colonies, with abundant resources for us to exploit. Will we still lack funds then? More importantly, just growing food up there would be enough for us to eat well." Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but get lost in the beautiful vision that Lu Qingji painted, especially the idea of farming on other planets. The farming spirit within them surged forth uncontrollably at that moment. Damn it, we can farm in outer space? Why didn't you say so earlier? This project is incredible. If we can really farm, then our people will never have to worry about food again. I think this project is feasible, truly beneficial for the country and the people. Yes, confronting the opposing forces is one aspect. Enhancing national defense and strengthening ourselves is another. But farming is also extremely important. Anyway, I support it. Seeing that most of the previously opposing leaders now agreed, Lu Qingji felt both happy and a bit helpless. It seemed that after all he said, they only remembered the farming part. Truly, they were the people of the nation. Of course, the most important thing was still getting approval from the finance department. All eyes were on the director of the finance department, waiting for his response. Zhou Jingting grinned and asked, "So what, old Qian, can we get a definitive answer?" The finance director, Qian Zhong, paused for a moment and finally shrugged. "If you all agree, what use is my opposition? Besides, I'm also curious about what food grown in space tastes like." Everyone erupted in laughter. The seal of approval from the finance department was granted. Lu Qingji immediately contacted Su Chun. Upon learning that the project had been approved, Su Chun was also very pleased. At this moment, Lu Qingji asked his question. "Comrade Su Chun, first of all, the country has absolute trust in you, but I still want to ask, why does this research require so much funding? The previous prototype only cost hundreds of thousands." Su Chun knew Lu Qingji would definitely ask this and calmly smiled as he explained, "That's because the Panspace mech is different from the prototype. Its technology represents a comprehensive breakthrough. For instance, regarding the power system, I plan to equip the Panspace mech with a nuclear power system. As for weapons, we must include electromagnetic pulses and optical stealth as well." Listening to Su Chin's enthusiastic explanation, Lu Qingji's eyes widened more and more. Only then did he deeply understand what Su Chun had said earlier. He aimed to dominate an era. It truly was a comprehensive domination. Chapter 54. Hello, Director Lu. My name is Su Chun. In the revival building, Su Chin finished his call and stepped out of the room. Zhao Daru was waiting at the door. Just as she was about to ask about the situation, she saw Su Chun hurriedly heading toward the revival building and bumped into Professor Ma Jiqiang. "Professor Ma, I was just looking for you." Surprised to see Su Chun, Ma Jiqiang asked, "What's up, kid?" Su Chun explained, "I need you to help me contact the Particle Collider Research Institute. The upcoming space mech research will require the use of the collider." Ma Jiqiang was taken aback. "You're starting on space mechs now? ISNT or RD project still pending approval? If they don't approve it, even if I help you connect with them, you still can't use it." Su Chun calmly replied, "You don't need to worry. The approval has already been granted." Hearing this, both Ma Jiqiang and Zhao Daru were shocked. "The approval has been granted? In just one day? That's too fast," Zhao Daru exclaimed. For such a large project to be approved in just one day was unprecedented. Unless it was a project like Mushroom Egg, which the country urgently needed to launch immediately. "So, you now have a 200 billion project under your belt." Zhao Daru thought her heart would leap out of her chest, astonished to the point of wanting to jump up. It was hard to believe that this young man, about her age, possessed a project even more formidable than that of an academician. The funding was indeed staggering, up to 200 billion. "Junior, it seems like you are now on par with those predecessors who manufactured the Mushroom Egg. From now on, I won't dare to pinch you too hard. If I accidentally hurt you, I might become a national criminal." Su Chun gave him a knowing look. Then, because he was too smug, he got pinched on the waist again. Professor Ma Jiqiang also took a while to regain his composure. These top professors have quite a few research projects and have to apply for various funds. Usually, it's just a few 100,000. Moreover, the approval process can take several months. Yet, Su Chun's project worth 200 billion was settled in just one day. It must be said that the higher-ups place considerable importance on Su Chun and his project. Naturally, he didn't dare to delay. After making some inquiries, he immediately called Lu Xueming, the director of the Particle Collision Research Institute. A slightly aged but robust voice came through. "Hello, Lao Ma. What made you think of calling me? It's been days since we last met. Are you looking to grab a drink?" Ma Jiqiang replied. "There will be plenty of time for drinking later. Where are you now? I need to borrow your institute's particle collider for a while." This statement completely bewildered Lu Xueming. "Did I hear you right? You want to use our particle collider? Do you think that SA toy you can just use whenever? Do you know how much it costs to operate that machine? You need authorization from the leadership." Ma Jiqiang responded, "Authorization? Should I get the principal to authorize it? Or should we have the regional commander from the north come over for the authorization?" Lu Xueming picked up his teacup, and before he could swallow, he spat out the tea upon hearing his words. "You're telling me you can get the regional commander from the north to come over?" Ma Jiqiang replied. "I definitely don't have that capability, but someone does. In any case, you don't need to worry about the authorization. We can handle it." Lu Xueming straightened up. Now very curious. What kind of research could warrant the involvement of the regional commander from the north? Lao Ma, you're not a particle researcher, so spill the beans. What exactly do you want to use our particle collider for? Ma Jiqiang said, I'm actually just responsible for contacting you. As for the research, someone else is in charge. Lu Xueming grew even more curious. Oh, is it a big shot? You wouldn't necessarily know who it is. Ma Jiqiang replied. He is an undergraduate student I supervise. As soon as he said this, there was silence on the other end of the line. The silence lasted for more than 10 seconds. Then, a roar erupted. Get lost, Ma Jiqiang. Are you messing with me? You're telling me your undergraduate student needs to use the particle collider? With that level of knowledge, do you think they can even handle a particle collider? And you say you can get the commander's authorization. Who are you trying to fool? Feeling tricked, Lu Xueming angrily hung up the phone. Old man, there should be a limit to joking around. He muttered angrily. Not long after hanging up, the phone rang again. Lu Xueming thought it was still Ma Jiqiang and picked up the phone, ready to scold him again. But to his surprise, it wasn't Ma Jiqiang's voice. Instead, it was a very authoritative male voice of a middle-aged man. Is this Professor Lu? Hello, I am Zhou Jingtian. Lu Xueming's whole body jolted. The voice on the other end seemed incredibly penetrating and distinctly recognizable. Having previously communicated with Zhou Jingtian, Lu Xueming instantly recognized that it was indeed Zhou Jingtian's voice, without a doubt. Lu Xueming smiled at once, feeling he had caught an opportunity. Commander, your call came at just the right time. You have no idea. Just now Professor Ma Jiqiang mentioned you wanted to use our institute's particle collider. I almost believed him. He can't even come up with a decent excuse, saying it was his undergraduate students who needed it. If he had said it was for his doctoral students, I might have believed it. You need to have a good talk with him. Lu Xueming's anger subsided, but the other side fell silent. After a few seconds, Zhou Jingtian's voice rang out again. Actually, what Professor Ma said is true. Upon hearing this, the proud Lu Xueming, who felt he had caught Professor Ma off guard, was suddenly stunned. His eyes widened, and the corners of his mouth twitched uncontrollably. Are you really Commander Zhou Jingtian? It can't be an AI, right? I heard that AI can now imitate human voices. The other end chuckled. I didn't expect Dean Lu to have such a strong fraud detection awareness. But don't forget, we are using internal lines. This reminded Lu Xueming. Zhou Jingtian was contacting him via internal lines. If someone could hack into their internal system to commit fraud, it would indeed be a waste of talent. Zhou Jingtian continued. It's no problem. I've already arranged for someone nearby to deliver the authorization documents to you. You'll know the truth then. With that, Zhou Jingtian hung up the phone. Listening to the busy tone on the other end, Lu Xueming felt his head buzzing. A huge question loomed in his mind. What kind of extraordinary undergraduate could possibly need to use a particle collider for research, and even get the commander to personally call for authorization? He held the phone, lost in thought. It took him a long time to come back to reality. At that moment, the office door was pushed open. He then saw that extraordinary undergraduate. The newcomer was Su Chun. They felt that the phone conversation couldn't explain everything clearly, so they had come over. Ma Jiqiang, seeing Lu Xueming's complex expression, guessed that he had already been confirmed by Commander Zhou Jingtian. He couldn't help but want to laugh. Just as he was about to make a sarcastic remark, he noticed Lu Xueming bypassing him and walking towards Su Chun. Are you the undergraduate? Lu Xueming asked. Su Chun had yet to respond when they heard a buzzing sound from outside. Everyone turned to look and discovered several helicopters flying towards the office building. They landed on the rooftop. Under the escort of a group of soldiers, an authorization document was handed over to Lu Xueming. The authorizer was none other than Zhou Jingtian. Now, after such a grand display, Lu Xueming had no choice but to believe. The undergraduate before him truly needed to use the particle collider for research. Under Lu Xueming's incredulous gaze, Su Chun extended his hand. Hello, Dean Lu. My name is Su Chun. Chapter 55, You are Su Chun. As soon as the name Su Chun was mentioned, Lu Xueming suddenly felt enlightened, as if all his doubts had been resolved. You are the head of the Xinqing Building Comprehensive Laboratory? The genius scientist who created the mecha, Su Chun. Lu Xueming shot a glare at Ma Jiqiang. If you had said it was Su Chun earlier, I would have known who it was. Instead, you insisted he was your student, and an undergraduate at that. Su Chun's name had become well known among the school as higher-ups. Even if people didn't know he personally developed the mecha, they had heard about how the entire Xinqing building was transformed into a laboratory just for him. Even though many had never seen his face, they had heard of his legend. Ma Jiqiang was a bit displeased. Su Chun was indeed his student. He was an undergraduate. He hadn't said anything wrong. Just as he was about to retort, Lu Xueming didn't give him a chance and walked straight to Su Chun's side, saying, Su Chun, I heard you're planning to use our research institute's particle collider. With the authorization from the commander, you can use the machine as you wish. But I'm curious. What do you plan to do with it? Su Chun replied calmly. I'm planning to develop a new type of particle for the new mecha. Lu Xueming was taken aback. What? You already have ideas for a new mecha so soon? But as soon as he said this, he suddenly reacted. His pupils dilated, and his mouth opened in shock, as if thunder was rolling in his mind. He exclaimed in disbelief. Did I hear that right? You just said you want to create a new type of particle? At this moment, not only him, but even Professor Ma was completely stunned. Xiao Su, do you really want to create a new type of particle? Zhao Dara was confused. What's wrong? Is creating a new type of particle very difficult? Lu Xueming, it's not just difficult, it's incredibly challenging. Theoretically, to create a new type of particle, one needs to predict and design in advance, which requires a solid theoretical foundation and innovative thinking, as well as the comprehensive application of complex physical theories such as quantum mechanics and relativity to accurately predict the properties and interactions of the particles. And that's just the theoretical aspect. The resource aspect is also crucial. From theoretical research to experimental validation, the entire process of creating new particles requires massive financial support. Moreover, due to the uncertainties in experiments, multiple attempts and improvements may be needed, which further increases the funding requirements. Zhao Daru thought for a moment. It doesn't seem that difficult, right? Theoretically, Su Chun was able to create an incredibly powerful mecha, so he must be sufficient in theory. As for resources, he just got approval for a project budget of $200 billion, so he is quite wealthy now. Lu Xuemin looked at Su Chun in disbelief upon hearing Zhao Daru's words. If he could create a mecha, Su Chun's theoretical level must be quite high. But where did that $200 billion project funding come from? Is the country really that generous? In all my years, it's the first time I've heard of such a terrifying project budget. Back when we built rockets, we didn't even spend that much. He cleared his throat and added, even if the theoretical and resource aspects aren't an issue, what about the technical aspects? New particles are produced during collisions, a process that requires extremely high energy. Even if new particles are generated in high-energy collisions, they may be unstable, leading to a very short lifespan and rapid decay, making their detection a significant challenge. This also requires extreme environmental conditions, such as very low temperatures, very high pressures, or strong magnetic fields, where even the slightest change in the environment can affect the experimental results and potentially lead to experimental failure. Zhao Daru fell silent. The things that Lu Xueming was saying had far exceeded her understanding. She looked at Su Chun, worried for him. However, this concern seemed unnecessary. Su Chun calmly said, I can solve these technical issues too. Lu Xueming was stunned. He couldn't believe Su Chun was so confident. Even he, as the director, wouldn't dare to say such things. Yet Su Chun said it with such ease. Even if Su Chun was a genius capable of creating mechs in 2 months. There's a saying that different fields are like mountains apart. The theories required for manufacturing mechs may not apply to particle production. By the way, Director Lu, what is the scale of our particle collider? Su Chun asked again. Lu Xueming suddenly froze. You dare to create new quantum particles without even knowing the scale? Truly fearless. But you came to the right place. Our research institute's particle collider is among the best in the country. It can reach 30 trillion electron volts. You should know that the largest hadron collider in the world can only produce 70 trillion electron volts of energy. Lu Xueming was quite proud. And even Ma Jiqiang couldn't help but nod. Zhao Daru immediately showed a look of surprise, feeling like she understood a lot. Just then, however, Su Chun frowned. 30 trillion is far from enough. Not enough? Still far from enough? Lu Xueming immediately felt that Su Chun was somewhat absurd. If this isn't enough, what kind of collider do you need to create the new particles? Do you know this is one of the top colliders in the country? It can't get much bigger, and we can't just borrow the largest hadron collider in the region. Su Chun waved his hand. They only reach 70 trillion. The energy produced by 2 beams of particles colliding is only 136 trillion electron volts. That still doesn't meet my requirements. At this point, Lu Xueming felt that Su Chun was a madman. The world's largest hadron collider couldn't meet his requirements. How terrifying was the scale he had in mind? Zhao Daru then asked, if that's the case, does that mean there are no colliders in the world that meet your requirements? Will the mech research still be feasible? Ma Jiqiang's expression also grew serious. The new mech was highly anticipated. It couldn't fail just because the collider wasn't suitable. However, Su Chun was unfazed by their worries. Haven't I said before? Technical issues are not a problem for me. With some adjustments, I can enhance the collider's performance. Lu Xueming was completely stunned. Enhancing performance through adjustments. How is that even possible? If such operations were possible, they would have already elevated the particle collider to world-class status. At this moment, he believed that Su Chun might not understand the particle collider or their field at all. Su Chun, it seems you are quite confident. Back when I became the director of our research institute, it was because I successfully introduced this particle collider. If you can enhance the collider's performance, even by just 10, I will gladly hand over the position of director to you. Upon hearing this, everyone present, including Su Chun, was taken aback. He realized that he seemed to be underestimated. Su Chun calmly smiled and replied, you should remain as the director. I'm not interested in that position. Ma Jiqiang added, previously, the director of the Military Research Institute. Zhao Konghua even wanted Su Chun to be the deputy director, and the future director pointed out that he should take the role, yet Su Chun didn't accept. You, as a university director, are not something he is interested in. Lu Xueming chuckled lightly, thinking Su Chun was afraid. But soon, Su Chun added, however, since this is one of the few colliders in our country, it wouldn't hurt to enhance its performance a bit, as I will need it anyway. Lu Xueming thought he had misheard. This guy actually won. Does he really have a way? Su Chun immediately expressed his intention to head to the Particle Collider Research Institute. Entering the institute's laboratory, a strong atmosphere of technology hit them. Walking through the lab to the innermost part, the massive particle collider suddenly appeared before everyone's eyes. The deputy director was personally performing various maintenance tasks on the collider and heard that Su Chun wanted to help enhance its capabilities. This deputy director was equally incredulous. Su Chen opened the collider's data panel and took out a piece of paper to jot down notes. Lu Xiaomin's gaze fell on that notebook. At first, he thought Su Chen was just putting on an act, but soon, increasingly professional content appeared, with many theories so profound that he couldn't comprehend them. After a while, Su Chen stopped his actions. He handed over several sheets with specific parameter modifications to Lu Xiaomin. Make adjustments according to these parameters. Lu Xiaomin was somewhat surprised and worried. Are you sure this won't damage the collider? Ma Jiqiang, unable to wait any longer, said, what are you afraid of? They allocated 200 billion in research funding to Su Chen. If it breaks, they can just buy you a brand new collider. The deputy director was startled by this statement. He looked at Su Chen in disbelief. Su Chen then said, the collider has its own protection system. Invalid parameters won't pass the system's verification. Lu Xiaomin suddenly slapped his forehead. Of course. How could I forget? The collider has its own protection system. Otherwise, if the parameters go haywire, it would be scrapped. Who could tolerate that? He didn't expect Su Chen to really understand. Thinking of this, Lu Xiaomin felt no further worries. He instructed his subordinates to proceed with the adjustments based on the parameters he provided. After a while, the system showed no response. Lu Xiaomin shrugged. He was about to say that the parameters seemed inadequate, but the words hadn't left his mouth yet. The data on the collider's display screen started to jump wildly. At the same time, numerous prompts appeared. Verification passed. Verification passed. Countless verifications passed in rapid succession, until finally, a message indicating that all verifications had been successfully completed appeared on the screen, leaving everyone present in shock. The entire room was stunned. Lu Xiaoming's head twisted slowly like a puppet on strings, turning to look at Su Chen. It felt as if he had seen a ghost. Chapter 56. Successful Test. The ultimate particle collider is born. Inside the Particle Collision Research Institute, the atmosphere was charged with excitement, like surging waves that were hard to calm. All the parameters that Su Chen had adjusted passed the system's verification. This undergraduate student surprisingly had such a deep understanding of the particle collider machinery, which astonished everyone. This was certainly not a coincidence. The internal system of the particle collider was extremely rigorous. There were numerous parameters that needed to be adjusted. If even the slightest error occurred, the entire verification process would end in failure. If it were merely a coincidence, it wouldn't have passed so smoothly. This indicated that Su Chen truly understood the equipment. He was even more knowledgeable than Dean Lu Xiaoming and the researchers present. It is important to note that even Lu Xiaoming would not easily adjust the parameters of the particle collider. If it weren't for Su Chen's insistence and the internal verification system, he would not have allowed Su Chen to make adjustments. Now that the verification was successful, he was naturally the most shocked. His gaze towards Su Chen was filled with surprise and disbelief. Ma Jiqiang also looked at his student in disbelief. It was one thing to understand how to manufacture mechas, but to have such knowledge of the particle collider as well. Su Chen was simply too well-rounded. Just as everyone was too stunned to speak, Su Chen's voice suddenly broke the silence in the laboratory. Now, let us proceed with the actual test. Successfully verifying the parameters was just the first step. Whether the goal of increasing energy could be achieved was another matter. At this moment, the researchers in the institute also became tense. Knowing that the actual test was about to begin, each person was filled with anticipation and anxiety. They all understood that this test was definitely not ordinary. It could even be described as a critical challenge and a significant opportunity in their long-term commitment to scientific research. They all exited the room where the machines were placed and moved to the control room. Under Su Chen's guidance, the collision experiment began. The start button of the particle collider was pressed, and a humming sound resonated from the machine. Various indicator lights around started to flash, intertwining red, green, and blue lights. As the startup program progressed, powerful currents began to surge through the complex circuitry. The superconducting magnets gradually activated, emitting a strange magnetic field, as if weaving an invisible giant net in the air. The technicians focused intently on the constantly fluctuating data on the monitoring screen. Their fingers moved rapidly across the control panel, ensuring that every parameter remained under precise control. At the same time, everyone's attention was focused on the screen, watching as the fluctuating data steadily rose to levels that had never been reached before. Even the operators were stunned. The performance data of the collider had increased several times. My goodness, am I dreaming? He turned to look at Su Chen, filled with surprise and admiration. Young comrade, how did you manage to do this? Just by adjusting parameters. You can enhance the performance of the particle collider? This is amazing. From these performance metrics alone, the collider's capabilities have improved by more than 10. Lu Xiaomin's voice rang out. Su Chen, I underestimated you before, and I think I owe you an apology. The crowd looked at Lu Xiaomin in disbelief. The director actually apologized. Zhao Deru was so shocked her mouth was agape, staring at Su Chen. She didn't understand the details, but she knew that Su Chen must have done something extraordinary. At that moment, Ma Jiqiang jokingly said, "Is an apology all you're going to do? You promised to give the director's position to my student. As his teacher, I can vouch for him." Lu Xiaomin's forehead began to bead with sweat. Su Chen calmly smiled. The previous bet was just a joke. My research on particle collisions is too narrow. I can't take on the important role of director. It's still up to Director Lu. Su Chen was actually speaking the truth. His research on particle collisions was limited to the theories related to mechas provided by the system. He was an outsider in other aspects. However, clearly, No one present believed his words. Adjusting a few parameters to enhance the collider's performance is still called narrow research? That's too modest. As the collider's data continued to rise, seemingly without end, Su Chun decided to proceed with the actual testing. When the particle collider officially began operation, a dazzling light instantly shot out from the entrance of the acceleration tube. The light was as intense and striking as a supernova explosion, almost blinding. Under the influence of a powerful magnetic field, the particle beams raced along the circular acceleration tube at astonishing speeds. They resembled a swarm of unleashed lightning sprites, leaving brilliant trails in the dark tube. As the particle beams accelerated, the entire collider began